21-year-old cashier Gloria Pacheco is suing her brother, 23-year-old sign installer Mike Pacheco, for the cost of their father's bail and legal fees.
Order. All rise. This is case number 536 on the calendar in the matter of Pacheco versus Pacheco. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
All right, there's a rather complicated fact pattern in this case, so let me see if I understand it. The defendant is your brother.
Yes.
About 2 years ago, your brother had just been released from jail and came to live in your father's home.
Yes.
This is your father?
Yes, it is.
Within a day or so after his release, a probation officer came to the house to check up on him, and the probation officer came unannounced.
Yes.
And that was a condition of your probation?
Yes.
What had you been in jail for?
Possession of methamphetamines?
Drugs?
Yes.
And when the probation officer arrived, the probation officer found your father smoking marijuana.
Yes, in his room, Your Honor.
Shh. And he was smoking marijuana because he was ill.
Yes.
And I understand he has now a card that indicates that he can use cannabis for medicinal purposes. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You have that card, sir?
Yes, sir.
At the time, he did not have that card.
No, ma'am.
So he was taken to jail.
Yes.
There were certain expenses surrounding his incarceration. You had to bail him out.
Yes.
You had to hire a lawyer.
Yes.
And you say that your brother agreed to repay you for these
Yes.
costs because, but for the fact that he was in the house, you felt as if he was responsible. The probation officer wouldn't have been there, your father wouldn't have been arrested, and you felt as if it was his fault.
Yes.
Would you step up, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
What's the nature of your illness, sir?
I have spinal stenosis, I have gout, I have arthritis, I have rheumatism,
How long did you spend in jail
12 hours, something like that.
before your daughter bailed you out?
Yes.
And how much did it cost to bail him out?
The bail was set at $8,000, so we had to put $800 down.
And you hired a lawyer?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much was the lawyer?
The lawyer was $2,500.
You have receipts for those two things?
Yes, I do. Here's the bail receipt. And this is the attorney receipts. He sent the receipts on the letters. He sent letters showing me the balance and the balance due.
What was the ultimate sentence, Mr. Pacheco?
They charged me a $300 fine.
You can sit down. Are you uncomfortable standing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just have a seat. Now, Mr. Pacheco, can you tell me about the conversation you had with your brother with regard to this money?
Yeah, at the time when the police they came into the house and they wanted to know where my brother's stuff was. I showed him in the corner because that was my father and my brother's agreement that his stuff was to stay in the corner. That way, if in case anything was to happen, because he told my dad about the search clause, that his stuff was in the corner and nowhere else in the house. He wasn't home at the time.
Who wasn't home at the time? Your brother?
Yeah, right, correct. My two young sisters were there at the time and very upset that my father had been taken to jail. Me and my brother here walked my sisters to McDonald's to get them something to eat. On the way to McDonald's, we met up with my brother who was coming home. At that time, I told him that our father had been arrested, and he felt bad about it. And he told me, well, all I have right now is $100. Do you know how much the bail is? I said, the officers didn't tell me what the bail was set at or anything. He called up and he found out that the bail was set at $8,000, and he asked me if I had any money. I did have money. I was reluctant to loan him the money because he had just gotten out of jail, and I knew he didn't have any funds at the time. I did at that time tell him I would loan him the money, and he told me he would pay me back because he felt bad that he had put his father in that situation.
But he did say, I'll pay you back.
Yes, he did, and he also said that he would pay back any fines, and also if there was any lawyer or attorney fees, he would pay that. And
Did he say that to you?
Yes. My brother, David, was there at that time when we had the conversation.
Okay, I'll hear you.
Well, what had happened was, I was in I had just been recently incarcerated. I got out. I spoke to my father. I explained to him. I didn't explain to him about the search closet first. I explained to him that I had nowhere to go. I didn't have nothing to do. I needed to stay at his place for a while. Move my stuff in, like she said. I had one particular area, and at that time I told him, that's when he told me to put it in one area, because I told him about the search clause.
This was after you moved in?
This was, yeah, right after I moved in. And he said, okay, well, rather than just putting me out, he says, well, leave all your stuff here. If anything happens, your probation officer wants to come, this is your area. They can search your stuff. He knew I wasn't doing drugs or nothing. I knew what he did, but he did it in his own room because he was sick, and a long time his doctor told him, you know, that if it helps him, go ahead and smoke it, but he couldn't, you know, prescribe it due to, you know, fear of being incarcerated himself, the doctor. So then when the police came in, I wasn't there. They came in, to my understanding, they didn't even search any of my stuff. They just smelled marijuana in the house. They went to his room with unannounced, and then they seen him smoking the marijuana. So they took him to jail. My sister, I was coming back home. My sister told me, Pop's in jail, what happened? Your probation officer come, they searched. So I was real worried about it. I was like, well, how much is going to get out? We'll find out. So we found out his bail. I had $100 in my pocket. I was thinking, where can I get the money? Where? And Gloria says, oh, I got the $700. So I said, yeah, well, you do? I said, okay, you know, well, let's go bail him out. And as far as all the payments of the lawyers and the court costs and all that, I never agreed to pay none of that. I thought about it. So, well, he got 8 kids. You know, everybody. I didn't put him in there smoking the weed. You know, I didn't have him in there smoking because they came search for me. They didn't find nothing on me. They didn't find nothing in my area.
Other than the fact that you agreed to pay her back, you would have no legal obligation to pay for your father, even though the probation officer was there looking for you. And but for the fact that you were living in your father's house, your father, in all probability, would not have been arrested, at least on that day.
Yes.
That doesn't make you legally responsible unless you agreed to pay her back.
I didn't agree to pay no lawyer fees or...
Step up. Tell me your name.
David Pacheco?
You were with your sister when you found your brother?
Yes.
Tell me about the conversation as you remember it.
My sister, when we approached my brother, like she said, she explained to my brother, you know, about how the police came and how they took him to jail and stuff like that. And you know, he couldn't stress enough how bad he felt of, you know, it was his fault that my father had ended up in jail that day. He said it more than once that, you know, I will pay you back anything, you know, whatever fines come up, anything, I will pay you back as soon as I can.
When did you decide, sir, that since there were 8 children, it should be spread around?
When I couldn't pay the bill, when I couldn't pay nothing, and I didn't agree to pay
I just want to know, you didn't say to your sister at the time, well, there are 8 children, so we'll spread this around.
No, I didn't, because at the time I was just worried about getting my father out of jail.
Right.
As far as the bail, I may be responsible for the bail because if he was incarcerated because of me, but that don't make me got to pay. Well, I got to pay the plant fees. He got his plants took, his weed took, his you know, put it in jail. I didn't put him there. I didn't tell him to smoke no weed. I know it helps him, but you know, I didn't know they was coming to raid him.
Mr. Pacheco, I don't think you listened to what I said before. I said, if it weren't for the fact that I believe that you told your sister at the time that you would pay her back this money, you would not have a legal obligation to do it because it's not your fault that your father was smoking marijuana, even as he claims, for medicinal purposes. But I can imagine how badly you felt at that moment when you found out that your father had been taken to jail.
Yes, of course.
That you felt terrible, and you said, let's do whatever we can to get him out, and I'll take care of the bills, but I don't have the money now. I mean, that sounds logical to me.
Well,
later on, perhaps.
We didn't even discussed anything about the lawyer fees or anything till after that day anyway. Now, when I told my father, you know, let me know what's happening and I'll do whatever I could do, but I didn't say I will pay it. And then when he starts coming at me with $2,500 for a lawyer, you know, I'd have got a public pretender.
Public pretender. I never heard them referred to as a public pretender.
I've seen some of them work. Some of them are pretenders.
That's what I say, too. But see, you get that from the state. I mean, you know, why I'm a...
Public
I wouldn't get
pretender.
no
That's a new one.
$2,500
Got
on a
to
lawyer.
send that one to the Bar Association. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,600. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I didn't tell him go get no lawyer or tell him to, you know, go hire this high-priced lawyer and get all these fines. I never agreed to none of that.
Sometimes family They might say something at the time and not mean it, but you just have to pursue it.
And now the next case.
All parties on Clay versus Markham. Step forward, please.
50-year-old respiratory therapist James Clay is suing 30-year-old former teacher's aide Don Markham. James says during his family stay at a hotel, Don injured his daughter in the pool.
Mr. Clay, I understand that you were at a motel with one of your daughters,
2 of my daughters, yes, ma'am.
and it was a nice day, and you and your daughters were in the swimming pool.
My 2 daughters were in the pool, and my wife was supervising them.
And at the same time, the defendant was in the swimming pool.
Yes, ma'am.
You were there with a group of people?
Yes, I was there with a school group. I was a room chaperone.
You were the chaperone.
Room chaperone, just for the evenings in the room.
According to your complaint, Mr. Clay, the defendant injured your 11-year-old daughter.
Yes, Your Honor.
Were you present when that happened?
I was not present.
Who is a witness to what happened?
My wife.
Could you step up, please? Mrs. Clay, tell me what you observed.
Well, Mr. Markham was in the pool. He was in the middle of this group. He was picking people up and throwing them. He'd throw one this way and one that way, and, you know, just every direction. And some of the other mothers and I were looking at each other like, this isn't right. He's going to hurt somebody. This is an accident that's going to happen. And it did.
Well, tell me what happened.
Well, he picked up a young man, threw him. My daughter was close to
How did he throw him?
like that, through the water. You know, hurling and then down on my daughter's left shoulder. Pushed her under the water, and she came back up, and her shoulder was obviously hurt.
Well, what did Mr. Markham do?
Well, I looked right over at him, and he just kind of shrugged his shoulders and didn't say anything.
Did you take your daughter for any treatment?
We went back to the room, got dressed, and subsequently went to the hospital, the ER.
Do you have any papers from the emergency room?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Laura, would you like to step up with your mom and dad?
Sure.
Tell me what happened when this person fell on you.
Well, me and my little sister were jumping off the edge of the pool, and I was reaching towards the ladder, and I turned around and I was looking at her, and that's when the gentleman fell on top of me.
What did he say to you? Do you remember?
Yeah, he was touching my shoulder. He kept on asking if I was okay. I contacted back to my mom. I was screaming and crying.
Okay, what was the total amount, Mr. Clay, of the family's unreimbursed medical bills?
$424.10, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Markham, I'll hear you.
Well, I was at the pool, and with what she said, I wasn't throwing people here and there. It was only the second time I had thrown the boy, and I saw where he had landed before, so I went under the water so he could get his foot here and a foot on his shoulder. So when I came up out of the water, after he tapped me, he went back. Well, I didn't know he had landed on the girl until I had turned around.
Were you standing in the pool, sir?
Yes.
Didn't you think that maybe if you threw him over your shoulder, he could have landed on his head in the pool if your feet touched the bottom of the pool?
Well, the water was up to here. I was
Right, but you're throwing somebody up. You're thrusting them up, which means they can go over on their head,
Yes.
down to the bottom of the pool, snap their neck. Didn't that ever occur to you?
No, ma'am, because the area that I was throwing him into.
Launched is a good word.
Well, the area that he was going into was deeper than the area I was standing.
How much deeper?
I'd say a good foot, but I
Okay.
figured if somebody wasn't diving head first or anything like that, if somebody was just dropping into water, you know, he had asked me to do it, so I was having fun and enjoying myself with the kids, having a good time, so I did.
Well, that was pretty stupid, wasn't it?
Looking back at it now, yes, but
Well, why didn't you follow through with these people with regard to seeing whether she was injured?
well, after the boy had landed on her and I saw that she was injured, I did go over to her, asked her if she needed help. I told her, you know, I'm sorry about this happening. And I stood there, I was going to help her up out of the pool, and she told me, no, no, don't touch me, don't touch me. So I backed up out of the pool and just kept an eye on her until her mother came over to her. And then I watched them go out of the pool. And that was the last time I heard anything until, you know, the girl from the front desk came over to me to get my name and address to fill out the accident report. And then I didn't hear from him again until September 15th is when I got a certified letter from him. He gave me 4 days to actually get a hold of him, and he was asking for $914 at the time. He gave me 4 days to reply to him, or he said he was going to sue me in the letter. And I sent him out this copy of this letter asking for certain information just so I can see and what and all has been done and what and all I needed to verify what was going on.
Let me see the envelope, please. This kind.
This is the envelope for the first time.
Mr. Markham, well, you talk here in terms, sir, of your level of responsibility. But what do you mean, my level of responsibility?
I know as myself, I have a deductible amount, but I never heard of a deductible amount being so high. So I thought,
Okay, so
well,
you're talking about the level of your financial responsibility.
Yes.
Not that you don't bear responsibility for the actions that you caused.
Right. Even though, like I said, it was an accident,
That's
but I
what-
was willing to work with the gentleman.
No, that wasn't an accident. That wasn't an accident. An accident happens when sometimes there are unforeseen circumstances. I don't view this as an accident. You are a mature adult. You, by your actions, dealing with the kids that you were supposed to supervise, caused her injury. So there's no question about your responsibility. The only question is how much. Now we know that just the money part of your responsibility is $424.10 with regard to out-of-pocket expenses by the plaintiff. Is that what you believe is your level of responsibility?
Yes, ma'am.
And what about the discomfort and the pain and suffering suffered by the victim? Don't you bear any responsibility for that?
Well, I feel for her circumstances, and I don't know if there is a amount you could put on pain
That's
and
what
suffering.
courts do. Courts put on an amount.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
What were you doing that summer? Were you still in school on June 11th?
No, actually, I went on a camping trip with my dad and my little sister.
Right afterwards?
No, we had to wait at least for the rest of the month.
For the camping trip, my husband said that she couldn't really hold a backpack so they could go, really hiking for a long time or anything like that. So.
It was a trip that we had planned all year, just me and my two daughters going out west. And it ruled her out of soccer for the fall. She wasn't able to play.
You mean in September you still had residual effect of the shoulder injury?
I couldn't move my shoulder for a very far distance for about 3 months afterwards.
Mr. Markham, that's what courts mean by pain and suffering. Plaintiff is suing you, Mr. Markham, for $3,000. He's suing you, I assume. The other $2,500 is for pain and suffering on behalf of his daughter for the discomfort that she endured as a result of your actions. He is absolutely entitled to that judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yeah, this is case number 226 on the calendar in the matter of Kessler versus Napier. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
All right. Well, there are certain things about this lawsuit that we can all agree on. Miss Kessler, the defendant is your cousin.
Correct.
Also a neighbor.
Correct.
And he has a girlfriend. Girlfriend?
Yes, ma'am.
You also know Dawn.
Yes.
And according to what I've managed to piece together from reading these papers, you were having a conversation with Dawn. And during that conversation, you told her something about your cousin that she didn't like, and that certainly he didn't like. What did you tell her about him?
That Jason was in Terre Haute on a boat, fishing and partying all weekend, Labor Day weekend, instead of being out of town working.
So you told his girlfriend that he wasn't where he was supposed to be, but he was out partying when he was supposed to be employed, right?
Yes.
And you confronted Jason?
Yes, ma'am.
Step up. When did you tell Jason?
While I was on the phone with Amanda, I had asked him about it.
So he was at your house?
Yes.
Had you called Amanda or did she call you?
She had called me.
While you were on the phone with her, did you call into Jason and say, Jason, tell me what you did?
After she had told me Jason was sitting there and I had asked him.
Were you still on the phone with her?
Yes, I was.
So you're holding the phone?
Yes.
And what did you say to him?
I had asked him, Amanda had told me that he had lost his job and that he was out drinking. So I had asked him about it. And
what did you say?
I asked Jason if he had lost his job, and he said that he didn't lose it, that him and his partner that he was working with had walked off of the job. And I proceeded to tell him that Amanda said that they were out partying, and I had asked him about that, and he said no. Then Jason got mad and went over to confront Amanda about this. and then this is when the confrontation went into effect.
Did you follow him?
No, not over to Amanda's house. I was watching out of my bay window, which...
So you didn't see what happened when you
Not
got
when
there?
he went over to her house, no.
So that you can sit down. So here we have it. You put your nose in where it didn't belong. He got mad, and you went over to her house.
True.
Furious.
Yes.
What happened when you got there?
Oh, I didn't go in the home. I just was outside, and she ran into the house, and I grabbed
ran
the
into the
shovel.
house?
She did, Amanda. I grabbed the shovel, and I proceeded to go up to her van, and I destroyed the taillight. I hit the taillight, and I paid for a new one, got the receipt, and gave it to her. From that point, there was nothing ever said or anything about it until I got papers from her saying she wanted to serve me to go to court, saying I caused $1,900 of damage, that I beat the van with the shovel, which there is no dents on there from a shovel. It's all hail damage that were already existingly on the vehicle when they bought it.
Why did you pick up a shovel, Mr. Napier?
Well, I was frustrated, and I was tired of her interfering in my life and starting trouble with my family when she ruined her own life with her family.
You mean you couldn't settle that with words?
Well, words only lead so far. It just accumulated of her doing it to us so many times and so many incidents and so many reports. You know, I just got fed up with it, and it just tried to relieve the pressure and show her what it feels like when she destroys people's property.
Why, she ever destroyed your property?
Yes, she has, many of times.
Really?
Yes.
Well, tell me about that.
Well, I got a report here of stating she did criminal mischief and she popped my fiance's tires in broad daylight and said that 2 men in a Buick pulled up and jumped out of the car and popped the tires when she was drunk, and she deliberately went over there and did that.
Well, how do you know she deliberately did that?
Because we saw her out of the front bay window. We told her to watch and heard the tires pop. You know, and tires make a loud noise when you stab a knife through them.
Now, your defense is that, yes, you did cause damage to the car.
Yes, and I knew I was at fault, and I paid for it, and I told her that I was sorry for that, you know, and I knew I did wrong, and I got papers reported to me that I needed to go to court.
All right, Miss Kessler, you tell me what happened. He comes to your house, and you run inside.
Okay, let's back up a little bit, Your Honor. When I was on the phone with Dawn, she advised me to call 911, that Jason was in a very big rage, so I did so quickly, ran to my master bedroom closet while he was in my house screaming that he's going to burn my house down, beat me up. I then heard the door shut, and I was on the phone with the dispatcher at the time, and I watched Jason pick up a shovel from my storm door and just rage from my hood all the way back. And there's scars, and there are dents. There's scars on my windows, on my hood, all the way down where it needs to be repainted. I have a very nice looking van, and I was so frustrated and confused. The police said that they would take care of it, talk to him. He said he'd pay for the damages. So I left it at that. Well, nothing was getting done, and I saw that there was more damage, got the estimate, and wow, almost $2,000 worth of repairs.
Tell me about him fixing the taillight.
I had a friend over. Dawn called them over. He did not fix the taillight. Dawn gave the taillight to a friend of mine in the yard.
So he purchased a taillight?
Right. And then I had to pay somebody to put it on for me.
You have photographs of the car?
No, I do not.
Why not?
Well, I did. I forgot to bring them.
How am I supposed to assess the damage?
Well, I have 2 estimates here that have full explanatory of what happened. I have a police report here that has
Well, let me see the reports that you have.
We do have pictures, Your Honor.
You have pictures?
Yes.
She wants the police report. And
I want the police report and the estimates, and I will take a look at the defendant's photographs, please. Now, Dawn, you did not witness this, is that right?
Yes, I did.
You said you were in the house.
Yes, I witnessed it through my bay window, which her van, she has pads that come up into the side of my yard, which is right in front of my bay window, and I witnessed the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're showing me these photographs, sir.
And if those were created by a shovel, they'd be a lot bigger than that.
It would have done a lot more damage than that.
This one certainly looks as if it's an absolutely fresh scratch with a dent. Want to take a look at that on the hood?
He never went to the front of the vehicle. He
Never.
stayed at the end. When the police came, the shovel was still by the tail light, halfway in the yard and on the sidewalk. He hit the tail light, dropped the shovel, and he proceeded to leave.
You're also presenting a bill here that talks about front lamps, front bumper.
He hit my van about 22 times.
Well, if he hit your van about 22 times, then you should have, clearly, some evidence to demonstrate that. Certainly this caused substantial damage.
Right, that was at the end of his rage.
This is not damage. That's what your van looks like now, right?
Right. There's scars all the way up and down. The
Oh, but
window's scarred.
You don't see that here. What you're saying is those scrapes and dents were not caused by a shovel.
Right, right.
Well, if you pick up a shovel and you cause this kind of damage, you see more than just a scrape.
Right, right.
Doesn't that seem logical to you?
Seems logical to me.
Especially with the anger that he had in him to do little dents like that. I mean,
How much did it cost you, Miss Kessler, to have the tail light fixed?
I paid a gentleman $10, a friend of mine, just to install it for me.
Miss Kessler, why is it that you felt it necessary to tell Dawn about your cousin's Labor Day foray?
I didn't call her purposely for that. Dennis called in on call waiting while I was on the phone with Dawn, and then he told me this information. I popped back over on Dawn and said, well, that was Dennis, and she said, what's going on? And I gave her just facts, that Jason was in Terre Haute on the boat instead of at work.
You see, Miss Kessler, what happens is when you stick your nose in somebody else's business, something's going to happen. I mean, what did you think? Jason was going to thank you for outing him with his girlfriend? Did you think he was going to be happy about that? That he's out fooling around on a weekend when he's supposed to be working? In any event, I think you better settle your differences, because if you're not only cousins but neighbors, this kind of stuff is absolutely ridiculous. You say it cost you an additional $10 to have it installed?
Correct.
That's the judgment. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $10. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was wrong for her to call over there and start stuff with my fiance and try to get me into a predicament that shouldn't have been escalated into.
I would like to move on with life.
And now the next case.
All parties on York versus Morash. Step forward, please.
64-year-old retired postal worker Beverly York is suing her son, 39-year-old mover Leonard Morash, for a loan to pay outstanding court fines. Leonard says his mother told him he didn't have to pay it back.
According to your complaint, your son was incarcerated. What were you in jail for, sir?
Felon in possession of a firearm, ma'am.
And he had served his time on that charge, but it appeared that he had some outstanding parking tickets or outstanding driving tickets. Is that right, sir?
Outstanding fines, Your Honor.
What kind of fines?
For a little criminal activity of possession of cocaine, possession of marijuana.
And what were the fines for? Court fees?
Yes, ma'am.
That you hadn't paid?
Correct.
And how long?
Several years.
Not terribly responsible. So that you were contacted in order to find out if you would put up the money to pay those fines so that he could get out of jail.
Correct.
You agreed to do that, according to you. You made a loan to him.
$705.
$705. He got out of jail, didn't pay you.
Correct.
Who contacted you?
At first, my son contacted me.
From prison?
From prison. And he asked if I would loan him the money. And he has made several loans in the past that he has never paid me back. And this time I said no. And then he called later on from his counselor's office, and he wanted me to speak with his counselor. And his counselor advised me that he had changed and thought that it would be a good idea if I helped him out.
How long were you in jail, sir?
I was in there for about 3 years.
You were anxious to get out?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
How long would you have had to remain in jail if your mother hadn't paid the fines?
It might have been like 6 months.
So you were looking at another 6 months?
Correct.
Now, you did call your mother initially. After she finished speaking with your counselor, you spoke to her. Is that right?
Yeah, she was a little leery of doing it in the first place.
And what did you tell her?
I said that I would come back to live with her and be with my son.
Your mother has legal custody of your son.
Yes, she does at this point in time.
Well, she has for a long time, I assume.
Correct. I've been in and out of his life.
How long have you had legal custody of your grandson?
Since he was a year and a half old.
That's you, right?
Yes.
You like living with your grandma?
Yes, I do.
Treats you good?
Mm-hmm.
By the way, do you want to be in here or would you like to wait outside? How do you feel about it?
I'll stay in here.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you told your mother that you would come back to live with her.
Yes, I did.
Did you go back to live with her?
No, I'm residing in Concord now. I have a good job there and a beautiful apartment, and I'm with my wife. And she doesn't like the fact that I'm with my wife. But she had told me prior to that I did not have to pay her back as long as I was with my son. Came
Well,
back
when
into
did
his
she
life.
tell you? Okay, so let's go back. When did she tell you that you didn't have to pay her back?
During a visit at the halfway house that I was in, after getting out, so I could get back into society and conform and just do the right things. And she had visited me with my son, and it wasn't about the money issue. It was about me being back into my son's life and him having a father, and which I always tried to do. My mother's very controlling and overbearing at times.
She can't control you while you're in prison, sir. What did she say to forgive this loan?
She said to me, it's not about the money, Lenny. I just want you to come back into your son's life and take care of him, have responsibility for him. And I've always wanted to do that, but I have my crosses that I bear. I've made mistakes in my life. All
Okay,
right?
so what did she...
I just want to carry on.
So what was the arrangement? The arrangement was that you would come back to live with her,
Correct.
be in your son's life,
Mm-hmm.
and if you did that, she would forgive the loan.
Right, and not go
Just
back
a second.
to my...
Hold on. Did you go back to live with her?
No, I did not, ma'am.
Well, if you did not go back to live with her, sir, you still owe her the money. Now, you were married at that time?
I've been married for 3 years.
So instead of going and living with your mother, you went back to your wife.
Correct.
Well, do you think that you breached the agreement with your mother?
No, I don't, because I believe she had said that I didn't have to pay her.
She said you didn't have to pay her
forgave the
if
loan.
what? If what?
If I went back into her life, in
No,
my
you
son's
told me if
life.
you went back to live with her.
Right.
With your son.
With my son, correct.
Okay, but you didn't do that.
No, I did not.
So you didn't fulfill your part of the agreement which forgave the loan. Are you following me?
Yes, I am.
Well, I mean, because you had a choice. Your choice was that either...
I went back to live with my wife, correct.
Right.
And then she started haunting me on the phone and calling me all sorts of names on the phone with my son on the phone. My son's screaming and crying. She's back in the background calling me all sorts of, insidious, crazy names. And I love her. She's my mother, but I can't put up with her sometimes.
Mr. Marash,
Yes, ma'am.
you were in prison for 3 years, so during the 3 years that you were in prison, you were, I assume, not contributing to the financial support of your son. Is that right?
Correct.
Now that you have a good job, how much money have you been sending to your mother to contribute to your son's support?
I haven't.
Why not?
She hasn't asked for any. If she would let me into my son's life,
Just a minute.
this is my flesh and blood. I thought blood was thicker than water. Now it's
Why don't you see if this young man wants to step outside while we finish this discussion? Okay. Okay? Sure.
Look at my son here for a second.
Sure.
How you doing?
Fine. Okay.
Your grandson is what, 11?
He's 10.
He's 10. I assume that the reason that you have legal custody of your grandson is because not only was his father incapable of taking care of him, but his mother as well.
Correct.
Is his mother alive?
Yes, Your Honor.
Does she have any contact with him?
No, she does not.
You should not wait for her to say, I need some money for him. She's been managing without you for 9 years. You should say, now I have a good job and I want to become an active member of society and fulfill my responsibilities. So for my good job, I'm going to send you $100 a week, $200 a week. I'm going to try to make up for what I haven't sent you over 9 years. Instead, you continue to bleed her. You should bless her every day. She took over your responsibility for 9 years. I mean, you may be angry. You may think my mother's controlling. She sets the times that I can see my son. She wants me to only see him at her house. All of those things. Does that sound familiar to you?
something like that.
I would too. She's right to say to you, you'll see him on my terms until I'm sure that you're going to be a positive influence in his life. You're not going to be here today and gone tomorrow.
Yeah, but I also understand that a father should be in his son's life irregardless of mistakes or, things. It's the way it should be.
Oh, who
I have a
said
lot,
that?
I
Where
have
is
a
that
lot
written?
to offer him.
What do you have to offer him?
Friendship, love, companion, being his father.
Fathering a child takes a second. That doesn't make you a parent. She's his parent. Mother and father. You weren't there when he had the measles, the mumps, the chicken pox if he had, when he had strep throat, when he had an upset stomach, when he had to do his homework, when he had problems with a classmate, when somebody made him feel badly in school because his father was in jail. You weren't there. She was. You have to prove yourself to not only your son, but to your mother as well. And you're going to start proving yourself by paying her what you owe her. Judge.
Step forward, please.
30-year-old exotic dancer Kelly Peters and her husband of 6 years, Christopher, are going through a divorce. They have come before Judge Judy to settle their disputes over a car, a cat, a dog, and their intimate home video.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please, all rise. Your Honor, this is case number 60 on the calendar in the matter of Peters versus Peters. Judge, the parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Thank you. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Peters, you've been married for 6 years and you're in the process of divorcing. According to your papers, I think that you've both agreed that your marriage is going to be over, despite the fact that I get some sense in these papers that you still care about each other, that your lives are going in different directions. And you come before me today because there is certain property that you have agreed to permit me to resolve with regard to the issue of ownership. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And once those issues of property are resolved, then the divorce process will be a relatively easy one.
Yes.
Yes.
Take a deep breath. Are you nervous?
A little.
Okay. Mrs. Peters, according to your complaint, there are 3 items at issue.
Right.
There is a car.
Right, the car.
What kind of car is it?
It's a 1993 Geostorm GSI. And then the issue of my cat and my dog, he gave my cat away. And we had decided that I would...
So there's a dog?
Yes.
Because the cat's gone?
Yes. And then also we have some videos that we...
Some personal videos that he has that you would like back?
Well, I would
like it destroyed?
Yes.
Okay. Let's start with the car, because my sense is that the car is, in the area of emotions, the easiest thing to resolve.
That's correct.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, the car is in your name,
Yes, ma'am.
but she pays for it.
That is correct.
How did that come about?
Because when Chris and I had moved to California together, for a while he wasn't working, and I had paid some of his car payments, just 2 of them, so that I was afraid he was going to leave me if he couldn't pay his bills and I go back to Colorado, and I didn't want him to go back, so I paid that. And then I got sick afterwards, and I got really behind on my bills, so my car got repossessed, so I ended up filing for bankruptcy.
I don't believe you paid my car payments.
Yes, I did. I did
Well,
twice.
that's really not particularly relevant, because what we're here for is for resolution, not to revisit bad moments.
So anyway,
Does that
that's
sound
why.
right to you?
Yes.
So you had bad credit,
Yes.
but you needed a car,
Yes, Your Honor.
and you helped her.
Yes, ma'am. I told her, I says, now if I sign for this car, you have to promise me that you're going to make your payments on time and you're not going to make this a liability to me.
So you said, I'll sign for it, but promise that you'll make the
Make your
payments
payments.
faithfully and on time.
That's correct, Your Honor.
You don't mind if I help you out a little bit?
No, not a
because I
bit.
got other cases to do today.
Thank you.
Okay. How much more time has to go on this car loan?
About a year and a half.
And how long was the car loan? 5 years?
Yes.
And you would agree, Mr. Peters, that she has made, even though some of the payments were late, she's made all the payments.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So there really isn't much of an issue about that. When you separated, you took the car.
Yes.
So
Well,
the
the issue is the collection agents keep coming to me wanting those payments because they're always late.
They are not, I'm sorry. Sorry, Your Honor, but they're not always late.
Well, I got just this notice right here that she's behind 2 payments.
I'm not behind 2
Let
payments.
me ask you this question, Mr. Peters. How would you like to resolve this fairly with regard to the car? Let me see what your suggestion is.
Well, I would like to be able to sign it over in her name, but that's impossible because they won't do it because of her credit. So I think that she should at least reimburse me maybe half of what the car is worth, and that way.
How How's that going to help you?
Well, my car's about ready to go.
How do you think it would be reasonable to resolve this issue? Because what you're really asking is you're asking him to sign the title of the car over to you, and yet he has the liability.
Yes, ma'am.
I've made all the payments up to now. I'm not going to stop making the payments.
Well, I know that because you're driving the car. But if you do stop making the payments, that means they're going to come after him or repossess the car.
I would never stop making the payments.
Mm-hmm.
I've already paid over $12,000 on that car, Your Honor. I'm not going to stop making the payments. Plus, I paid his car insurance until this year so that he could have car insurance because he didn't want to have
That's
car
not
insurance.
true. You left me with $1,500 worth of bills, and
Chris, that is so not true.
and I paid the last 2 months of your insurance.
Okay. How much is this car worth now, approximately?
$7,000.
Is that about right?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you have the last statement that you received on the car?
I just have one of the bill that's owed right here.
Can I see it, please? Well, it says this payment, you are delinquent by 1 month.
Actually, that will be true on the 26th. But I'm going to make the payment before the 26th.
Okay. Give me a minute. You still owe a lot of money on this car.
About $6,200, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably paid about $2,000 in overcharges by now.
No, I have not, Chris.
Wait, she's paid for a long time. I mean, you have had the car for, if she's had the car for 4 years, if she's had the car for 4 years.
But every time she's late a payment, Your
I
Honor,
am not every time late a payment, Chris.
Shh, don't fight with each other. You don't have
Sorry.
to fight with each other anymore. You're getting a divorce. The fighting is over.
Later on Judge Judy.
Have you ever shown this video to anyone?
No, ma'am.
And you want it destroyed?
Yes, I do.
You want to keep it?
Yes, ma'am.
That's sick.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 34-year-old Chris Peters is divorcing his wife Kelly because she won't give up her exotic dancing career. They have asked Judge Judy to arbitrate their dispute over their pets, their car, and their intimate home video.
Mr. Peters, I'm going to suggest to you that for the purposes of liability and everything else, that you sign this car over to her so that the car is in her name. You, of course, always have the recourse of suing her in a small claims arena. You don't have to go through lawyers or anything else. You know she doesn't have money now.
Yes, ma'am.
My alternatives are to force her to sell the car, satisfy your loan, and then she'd have $800 left. Because if the car is worth $7,000 and there's $6,200 left to pay on the loan, that would put her in a position of not being able to be employed, really, because she wouldn't have a way of getting back and forth to work. I assume you drive to work.
Yes, I do.
Now, you've been married for 6 years. Are you employed on a regular basis?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
You have a weekly paycheck?
The small one.
Okay. You are not, I assume, Ms. Peters, in your divorce action seeking support from him. Is that correct?
Of course not.
Because you're working.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to look at the long-term picture, Mr. Peters. This car is your insurance. Your insurance that when this whole divorce action is finalized, your wife is not going to ask for support from you because she's not working because she didn't have a car to get to work. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So what it really means is for the next year while this car loan is being paid off, you'll have to sweat it a little bit to make sure, you know, that she's going to make the car payments. You also can feel confident that after all the money she's paid for the car, it is unlikely that she's going to allow the car to be repossessed. I'm telling you right now, if you don't make your payments, the first thing they do is come and get the car. So, Mr. Peters, you're going to sign the car over to her. That way, when your divorce is over, everything's going to be finished. Is that a good idea?
That's fine, Your Honor.
All right, good. So, that was the unemotional part of this dispute. Now, let's get to the dog. The dog's name is Breezy.
Yes.
Breezy is, according to your papers, a boxer.
Yep.
Is that a
Yes.
picture of Breezy?
No, this is a picture of my cat that he gave away without my permission.
Okay.
We'll get to the cat.
Yes, we will.
That's a picture of Breezy.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your papers, Miss Peters, you had a cat and a dog.
Yes.
You had Mac, the cat.
Yes.
Breezy, the dog.
Right.
And why don't you tell me about the arrangement with the cat and the dog when you separated in November?
Okay. We had agreed that I would take the cat, Mac, and I would let him keep Breezy, even though I didn't really want to let him keep Breezy because she's my dog too, and I love her, and I'm the one that took care of her, paid for her food most of the time, took her to the vet, all that stuff.
You agreed that you would keep the cat and he would keep the dog.
Right, and because I can't have the cat where I'm living right now, he had promised that he would keep Mackie for me until I could get my own place. And I thought that instead of taking Mac at the time and having him stay at a friend's house or having my sister keep him, it would be less traumatic for Mac if he stayed in his own house with his own yard until I could come get him. And he looked me in the eye and promised me that he would take good care of Mac.
The same way she looked me in the eye and promised me she'd make all her payments on time.
Oh,
Mr.
God.
Peters.
I did promise and looked her in the eyes about the cat, and then I'd keep it for her. But sometimes when you get...
So what happened with the cat?
The cat kept urinating all over the house and on my clothes and stuff, and I finally...
Coming up on Judge Judy.
It was totally done just for the two of us. I've never made that kind of video with anyone ever before. And I just did it for him.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mr. and Mrs. Christopher Peters are in the middle of a divorce, but they have come before Judge Judy to settle custody of their pets, a car, and a personal home video.
Why didn't you call your wife and say, listen, I'm giving away the cat. You want the cat, come and get it?
Because I knew that the cat needed a home, a good home, and Kelly wasn't prepared. She just left the cat. If she was so concerned about Breezy and the cat, then she should have done something before she left.
Okay.
She shouldn't have
Mr.
just left
Peters.
it up to me.
Mr. Peters, you didn't answer my question.
Why didn't I
Why
call
didn't
Kelly?
you, at that moment,
Because I was
pick up
pissed
the...
off.
Right. That's honest. There you go. Okay.
And
That's
I was
honest.
using, and I was thinking that, I was thinking that, you know, it was her fault and stuff, and I was sorry. After I gave the cat away, I tried to get the cat back because I realized how much it really meant to Kelly, you know. But at the time of the anger of the moment,
Okay.
I hated the cat.
That's
so.
just a second. That's honest, Mr. Peters. Shh. Shh. That's honest.
Okay.
Well, so now, Mrs. Peters, your husband acknowledges that he got rid of the cat because the cat was soiling all over the house.
But, Your Honor, it's because he didn't clean out his box.
Whatever. For whatever reason. He didn't like the cat. Maybe he looked at the cat as an extension of you. Is that a possibility?
Maybe.
He acknowledges that he was wrong. That's a step. That's not a reason for me to say that you're entitled to the dog.
And I'm sorry I gave away the cat.
Good. Did you hear that?
Yes.
I am sorry.
Because, you know, it's like he did some... The dog has been with him. The dog has always been with him for the last 9 months. The dog has been with him, living in a place where the dog is accustomed to living. There's a certain routine. So if I were to say, well, you gave away the cat, now I'm going to give her the dog, who I'm really punishing is this dog who had very... You know, dog didn't have anything to do with getting rid of the cat. So that wouldn't be fair, would it? Mrs.
Well,
Peters, would
the
that
dog
be
lives-
fair to the dog?
No, probably
Right.
not.
You're right. It would not be fair to the dog. It's like saying if you have a child and there's a divorce, and if one parent acted badly about something, you punish that parent by saying, well, I'm going to limit your visitation with the child. Because that's punishing the child. It's not only punishing the party, but it's punishing the child for something that the child had no control over. This dog is used to living in a particular place. How old is the dog?
3 years.
So for 3 years, lived in the same place, same homes, got a yard, whatever. Does it?
Yeah, it's got
Got
a
a
big
yard, has a routine.
She's real happy too, Your Honor.
And there's really no reason for me to uproot the dog because he made a mistake.
Well,
Yes, I did.
He made a mistake. He apologized for it. It was not the right thing to do. So the dog stays with him.
Chris, thank you, Your Honor.
Now, the last thing that we're going to address is this video. Ms. Peters, it's your position that this was a rather intimate video that you and your husband took as husband and wife for fun, for whatever. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
and you want it destroyed.
Yes, I do.
Your position is you want to keep it.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Well, I have a couple of questions to ask you, sir.
Okay.
Have you ever shown this video to anyone?
No, ma'am, I would never show it to anyone else.
Okay, so you want to keep this for yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
That's sick. Very sick.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It's not as nasty or whatever that you want to think. I mean,
Your Honor, it's very graphic.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Peters, an exotic dancer, and her husband Chris Peters are divorcing. Judge Judy is deciding what happens to their intimate home video.
There is no reason that I can think of for divorced people to keep pictures, videos, photos of each other that the other party might find embarrassing.
Well, there's nothing embarrassing about it. It was just, you know, I mean, it's like, I love Callie. I'm always going to love her. And it's just, I mean, it's not as nasty or whatever that you want to think. I mean,
Your
it was
Honor, it's very graphic.
Just a second. I don't want to hear about it. I thought I was being very...
Sorry.
I thought I was being very circumspect about it. I said that there was an intimate thing done with...
I have
between
many
us.
other videos of her, too. I mean, that's not in the same category,
This
but...
is what she wants. This is the one that offends you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. I'm going to say this to you one more time, sir, and listen to me very carefully. When you divorce, if you're lucky, you're left with certain pleasant memories that you try not to forget. You know, you had good times with your wife. It just so happens that in your case, after 6 years, your lives have taken a different path. She doesn't want to have to worry about these photographs, these videos, falling into anybody else's hands. God forbid you're out in a car and your car is in a wreck and you are there comatose and your mother goes through your things and she says, I wonder if these are pictures of Chris when he was out skiing. And your mother plays this video. Do you understand what I'm saying, sir? You know, it's one of the reasons why people are always supposed to wear clean underwear all the time and keep their houses neat. You never can tell what's going to happen. There are all kinds of situations that I can conceive of where even if you don't intend something to happen, this can fall into the wrong hands. Someone can burglarize your house. That's a possibility. Isn't that a possibility?
I don't think they'd find the tape.
They're certainly not going to find it, sir, because there isn't going to be a tape.
So there's nothing I can say because...
There is absolutely nothing, sir, that you can say to me that would satisfy me that there is any logical, rational basis for you maintaining anything that might prove embarrassing to her. And if she had something that might prove embarrassing to you, I can guarantee you, sir, it would be in my possession if it was the subject of this litigation, and it would be destroyed.
Do you?
No, of course I don't.
Good. Officer Byrd, you and I are going to take care of this video in the back. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Peters, listen to me. It's resolved. This is going to be destroyed. It's going to be destroyed within the next 5 minutes. Officer Byrd and I are going to have fun. We're going to create a little bonfire in my chambers. Now, then you don't have to worry about it anymore, Mrs. Peters. So let us see how we resolve this case. The Geo.
Yes, ma'am.
Is going to be registered in your name. The dog, Breezy, sir, is yours.
Thank you.
The video is mine. This case is over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
And on the next Judge Judy.
She's got stories that she'd come home and tell me of stuff that men did to her. Women never did stuff like that when I was dancing. No,
I remember a certain bruise that you had in a certain intimate place that you showed me.
Okay,
Chris.
yeah, but it wasn't.
But don't tell me that it was just
wasn't
getting
like the
manhandled
things
ever.
that you had happen to you.
Yes, it was like
And
the things. Yes, it was.
There's not a man out there that would share their wife with other men. That's the bottom line.
That's not true, Chris. I shared you with plenty of other women. It was totally done just for the two of us. I've never made that kind of video with anyone ever before. And I just did it for him.
I still love you.
Football mom Beverly Sherman is suing the director of her son's league, Lester Hollins, for emotional damage because he banned her and her two sons from the club.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Your Honor, this is number 91 on the calendar in the matter of Sherman versus Hollins.
Sir.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Those belong to your boys?
Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Sherman, I've read your complaint. You are suing the defendant for $5,000 for discrimination, stress, mental anguish, because he won't let your two sons play in his football league. Right?
That is correct. My two sons and my daughter, who's a cheerleader, and my niece.
Well, let's not talk about your niece. I'm not interested in your niece.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about your daughter, who's a cheerleader. That's not part of your lawsuit. Let's talk about your two sons. You believe that it is actionable, which means that you have a cause of action against this man for the things that I've just outlined, because he, and I believe you run this football league,
That's correct. I founded it.
won't let your boys play.
Exactly.
Why won't he let your boys play? Do you know?
Well, Mr. Hollins seemed to have a personal vendetta against me for an incident that happened earlier before the season actually got started.
What was the incident?
Well, the incident happened where I was the uniform coordinator.
Uniform coordinator for the team?
For the organization.
Okay.
Okay. I coordinated the accessories and things for the football players, the team moms, the team managers, the coordinators, and everyone involved
So
in the
you were in
organization.
charge of uniform accessories?
Exactly.
Correct?
Yes.
All right. So what happened?
The incident happened where I ordered gold socks to accommodate the colors or whatever in the uniforms, and Mr. Hollins wanted blue socks. And the incident just got blown out of proportion. He, just really, never let me live it down, and he's just been
So
real
you ordered
hard
color
on me.
socks that he didn't, just a minute, let me understand this. You ordered a color socks that he didn't like. You had an argument about that.
A big argument.
And after that, what happened?
After that, everything I have done for the organization, he has just, looked down upon me. He's criticized me. He's just, nothing I can do for the organization is to his liking, everything,
And your boys had played in the league before, in his league before?
This was the start of this organization.
I know, but did they play for a season with his
did.
group?
Yes. This was their first year.
And they did play?
Yes.
So your complaint is that they weren't invited back for year two?
Exactly.
You want to say something to me?
Yes. That incident that she described was only one of many incidents. The incident that actually brought the last blow was at a meeting on February 28th of '97. We're supposed to have been just a general business meeting, and Mrs. Sherman became unhappy with the agenda and stormed out. So when the board met and discussed the year of events from August, from the incident with the socks, there was an incident on, I believe that was Wednesday, September 3rd, after a high school game. She had verbal confrontation with our cheer coordinator, which she was kicking the lady's vehicle, slamming her door, and this was done in front of several of the high school faculty. And it was
What was that incident about?
It was about a list of names that she was demanding from our cheer coordinator that she did not feel that was produced in a timely manner.
I didn't demand anything, and I'm sure if I was kicking and doing this to this lady's car, in which it was a brand new car, I'm sure I'd be in court right now with her for a lawsuit.
So what you're saying is you
I did not do that to the lady.
You didn't assault her car?
No, I did not. We had verbal words.
Well, I'm beginning to get the gist of this. So your board decided that they didn't want her to be the uniform coordinator anymore.
Well, just not uniform coordinator, just through her conduct and her actions throughout the entire course of the year, which I have here the flow chart for the organization. Even with the incident that involved myself and Mrs. Sherman.
Over the socks?
Yes, it was really an ugly event, and there were several other events. As her acting as the uniform coordinator, there were numerous...
Listen, Mr. Hollins, you have a right to say, if you have a board, I don't want this person involved. All I asked you was, did your board decide that they didn't want Miss Sherman to be the uniform coordinator anymore?
And to not invite her back, yes.
And not invite her back in what capacity?
Any involvement, and it was basically not wanting her to even return to the organization simply because of her conduct.
Okay. Now, what did that have to do with her boys?
Well, the boys are in her family. It wasn't that we were banishing the boys, but it was just that we preferred that she did not return with her family because of her conduct. And it was brought to our attention, well, do you think it's possible that she can come and just participate, you know, and support her children? And we said, well, yeah, but it's a concern with the other parents, other board members, that her having nothing to do would just give her more ample time to just be more of a disturbance.
Well, Mrs. Sherman, your problem, madam, is that you have to have a legally actionable case. Mr. Hollins is not legally obligated to accept any boy or girl on his team. I'm sure that a lot of people try out for the team that aren't accepted. Is that right?
That's correct.
Exactly, but what he is doing is trying to keep my children from participating in his program because he doesn't personally like me.
So what?
In which,
but Mrs. Sherman, that may sound unfair to your children, but let us assume
it's
the following.
unfair, period, in life.
It's unfair in life.
It's discrimination.
You know, if he auditions, what do? You audition people for your team?
Tryouts.
Tryouts. Let's say he has tryouts for his football league, and 50 kids come and try out. And he only accepts...
It's 33 per team.
33 kids.
Exactly.
You're going to have 17, right?
That's right, 17.
17 children who are going to be disappointed. If I permitted your lawsuit, madam, that would mean that the families of those 17 kids who were not asked or invited onto the team could have a cause of action for discrimination, mental stress on themselves, mental stress on their children. Nobody would be involved with coaching a team anymore. Nobody would be involved in starting a team.
This isn't the case.
That's not the case.
This is not the case.
Of course it's the case.
It's not. They didn't even get an opportunity.
Listen to me. They don't have to be given an opportunity.
They do, according to the bylaws of King Conference.
Yeah, he doesn't own this
He doesn't
organization.
own
This is
the
a
whole
public organization.
Just a second. This isn't a public organization.
It is
It's
so.
a public
Just a second.
organization.
Just
It
a
is
second.
so.
That's just
How
like
is-
saying a black person couldn't go to a white something.
Please,
a white
Mr.
person
Sherman,
could-
don't bring
it's
black and white into this.
discrimination.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
Okay,
this-
how
about
many
color.
how many children in this league are black?
Almost the
95%.
entire
So
league.
then stop talking discrimination.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with discrimination.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He has an ego problem, a control problem, and he just does not take constructive criticism from a woman well.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Football Junior League Director Lester Hollins says he had to ban Beverly Sherman and her sons from the league because she was too much to deal with.
It has to do, Mr. Sherman, with the fact that he had an altercation with you, and according to him, the board decided that they didn't want you to be involved anymore.
That's fine.
That's fine. And they would prefer, for the sake of all the other children, not to have you involved because, according to him, and I'll let him go on and tell me what the incidents were that he says. We had one incident where he says that you kicked the car. You had another incident where you had a verbal altercation with him. I mean, I feel sorry for your boys, but you have to understand that not every wrong is legally actionable. Not every wrong results in coming to a court. Sometimes if something like this happens, you have to say to your boys, which you did according to your papers, listen, guys, there is another football league, and you have to be involved with that one because I don't get along with Hollins, I don't get along with this whole organization. There is another place for your boys to play football.
So
Sure.
why do they have to be made to go somewhere else when they haven't caused done anything?
any
They haven't
problem.
done
Life's
anything.
tough.
I haven't done
Mr. Sherman,
anything.
listen to me.
Sure.
You're not following me. I said it's sad. I said it's unfortunate. I said it's probably unfair to the boys that they can't play. All of those things.
I got two
What I'm
different
saying to you
understandings of
is,
this.
it is not legally actionable. Because if it was legally actionable for you, that it would be legally actionable, courts would have to open their doors to the other 17 boys who tried out for that team and who, for one reason or another, were rejected. And it may have been unfair. He may not have liked them because they were too tall, too short, too fat, too thin. He needed a tall one. This was a short one. Whatever reason. He wanted this cheerleader because she was prettier than that cheerleader. He wanted this cheerleader because she was taller than that cheerleader. If I allowed your kind of lawsuit, our courts would be flooded with this kind of case. And we can't have that because not every wrong is subject to a legal redress. It's as simple as that. It's sad. But your boys can play football. They weren't discriminated against because of their race, because of their ethnicity, because of anything else. They were discriminated against, if you can use that term, because he didn't want to look at you during the course of the season.
Not a problem, because I don't want to look at him either.
He didn't want to.
So you're saying that he can make people come and go in this organization as he chooses.
That's absolutely right.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today,
tell them about that you was a prostitute and how you was a good actress because you had to fake for your tricks. You had to fake for your
she only steals from rich people and whores.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Football Junior League Director Lester Hollins says he had to ban Beverly Sherman and her sons from the league because she was too much to deal with.
You don't seem to understand. It's
I don't
sad,
think you got
but
it.
I'm going to say it one more time. Every disappointment does not result in a lawsuit for stress. Right? Your boys have the opportunity to play at another football league where not only they will be welcome, but hopefully the two of you will be welcome. Welcome to participate, welcome to get involved. I would suggest that you use your energies towards more productive things rather than negative things. They are not welcome because you, madam, are not welcome. And the fact that you are fighting here in court about this instead of moving on and getting your boys involved in another football league where you and your boys and your son will all be welcome is a big mistake.
We've already done that.
Good. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. I'll get back to you. Right.
The children suffer because of the parent behavior.
He can't even come out the courtroom
the behavior
and tell the
of the
truth.
parents.
I mean,
is
that's a
why,
shame.
you know, we
That's
just
a
did not
shame.
permit the family in itself.
Parties on Humphreys versus Stewart. Step forward, please.
Company manager Ernestine Humphreys claims her niece, 33-year-old Yolanda Stewart, stole $1,000 of her company's cash.
Ms. Humphreys, the
Yes,
defendant is your niece.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your complaint, you are accusing your niece of stealing $1,000 of business money.
Yes, Your Honor, I am.
Well, tell me why you think she took this money and how.
I represent a company in Detroit, and I am responsible for making the deposits, weekly deposits. On Tuesday, May the 6th, I was in my office. I had balanced the manager's sheet, counted the money, and I had $7,200 on my desk. My
In
niece,
cash?
Yes, in cash. Already wrapped and counted.
What kind of business is this?
Coin laundries.
A coin laundry, so they collect all the money and then you make a deposit of cash.
Exactly.
Okay.
So there was a knock on the door, and the employee was in the bathroom. So I opened the door. It was my niece. She works down at the next light. And I thought she just saw my car and came by to say hi and whatever. During the time that she was there, I turned and walked away to use the telephone. And when I came back, she suddenly was in a hurry to go. And a couple of days later, the corporate headquarters in Toledo informed me that my bag was missing a roll of tens, 100 tens, which was $1,000. And they didn't understand why this happened. They wanted to know if I had someone helping me count the money, because all of the years that I've worked for this company, that has never, ever happened.
Well, how many people touch this money after you count it and prepare a deposit?
I give it to the owner's son, David, and he takes it and gives it to his father, the owner of the company, and he makes the deposit.
So at least 2 other people touch that bag before it gets to a bank.
Right, but the owner has 26 stores. He's a multimillionaire, and his son is very wealthy. I don't think they need $1,000.
Did you take this money?
No. And second of all, she did not walk away and use the phone. She asked me to walk away and call my sister to see what time my sister and her daughter were coming to Detroit. We both walked to the phone, which I did that, and my sister was not there. We left a message on her machine. And then I said, well, I have to go. I was at work. I seen her car like I always do. I stopped in to say, hey, how you doing? We both talked. The money was on the table. And I talked to her briefly, and then I said, well, I got to get back to the store. I left nobody in charge. I said, I'm going down to Highland Park, and then I'm going back to my store. She said, oh, thanks for coming and all that. She walked me out to my car. I don't know, she came out the second door, and she watched me as I got in my car, and she was talking to me. And this right here is what I had on. I had no jacket. I had no purse, nowhere where I could have stuck $1,000. The day before that, she told me she needed some money. I said, well, I don't have any money. She told me that the day before. And also the day before, I helped her count this money. She paid me $50 out the money for helping her count it, which it wasn't my first time helping her count the money at all. And then after that, she said, she came to me about a few days later. She said, I went to the meeting in Toledo. She was nervous. She came up to my job. She said, they said I'm missing a bundle of tens. And she said, from the house. I said, well, it couldn't have been missing from your house. When I stopped at your laundromat, I said, you were just now writing it on the sheet. She said, oh, you're right. And then after that, that's when I heard it happened at the laundromat, which she never left me, in which her office has a lock on it. So why would she ever say, she could have just asked me to step out and let the door lock.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Let me tell you this.
Yes, Your Honor.
You really do not have any proof that Miss Stewart took this money.
No, it's just circumstantial.
And you understand that it's really unfair for any court to convict someone, and in effect, I would be convicting her of being a thief if I were to grant you this $1,000 judgment that you're after.
I understand.
Especially since there were other people who had their hands on that money. I just think it's so sad that you had had a lovely relationship, according to your papers, before this happened, and that you make this accusation without any real proof to back it up.
Your Honor, she was the only one in the office that day while the money was on the desk.
Money. And you needed money.
Well, shh.
Order.
I did not.
No, don't
And
talk.
I did not need any money.
Listen to me.
No, I did
Listen
not.
to me. You may have needed money.
No, I did not.
She may
Yes,
have
you
needed
did.
money. Bottom line is, in a court, you have to deal with proof. And there were other people who touched that money after you counted it, prepared a deposit, and gave it to the owner's son. You don't know who the owner's son gave it to. He may have let somebody
He gave
else.
it to his father.
Well, but
Now
you don't
you know.
know that. Hey, do I look like I need help?
Okay, I'm just helping you out.
You don't know that. It may have gone from his hand to 2 or 3 other people's before it ended up in the bank. So I cannot award you the judgment that you're requesting. I just, again, find it very sad that 2 people who had been very close to each other, clearly, are now not. I think maybe you should apologize to her for letting this thing go this far. Anyway, this case is dismissed. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And on the next Judge Judy.
God is the final judge, and he sits high and looks low, and he saw what she did, and she knows what she did, and she will be judged for it in a higher court.
Tell them about the robbery that you staged in Cleveland. Tell them that. Tell them about that you was a prostitute and how you was a good actress because you had to fake for your tricks. You had to fake for your
She
for
only
the
steals
police.
from rich people and whores.
Okay, well, you was a
She
whore.
could be very
Right.
dangerous.
I give less than a hell about her. From now on, I don't know her.
The
She don't
only
wear cuckoo.
way that she can ever get a
Cuckoo.
man is by buying
Okay,
men. She
whatever.
used it and gave it to her modern-day pimp man.
That's why it went on like it did, because I prayed to God to let the truth be told. So it
truth
happened.
hasn't been
It
told.
happened. It happened.
hasn't been
It happened. And she right. God the final
I
witness.
made- I
He's the
made
final
my
witness. He
comment
probably strike her down dead tomorrow.
17-year-old Kelly Atkinson says she started dating Daniel Cope when she was only 15. Now broken up, she's suing him for money he took when they were lovers.
Order. All rise. Quiet, please. Judges number 278 on the calendar in the matter of Atkinson versus Cope. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
How old are you?
25.
Did you know how old she was when you started to date her?
Yes.
How old was she?
15.
And you were 23?
Yes, ma'am.
That's very dumb.
It's a lesson well learned.
Because in addition to everything else, it's a felony. Right?
Yes.
Now, Miss Atkinson, this is your mother?
Mm-hmm.
You're 17 now.
Yes, I am.
So this suit was really filed by you on behalf of your daughter. You say that you loaned him money.
Loaned him $2,000.
For what?
Repairs on his pickup truck. Bills that I paid for him.
Like what?
Gas and power. Very, very, very often, he would take me to the bank to get $20 out so he could get back and forth to work for a night. I have a copy of all my bank receipts for the time that we were dating.
Where did you meet him?
He is an old friend of mine's boyfriend's brother.
Yeah.
And we were just introduced one day, and we were friends for about 5 months, and then it went from there.
Did your mother know that you were dating him?
Yes, she did.
Did you think it was a good idea?
He wasn't like a normal 23-year-old. He was more like a 19-year-old. Seemed, and they were friends first.
That's not unusual. So he's 23 going on 19. And your daughter was 15 going on 16.
Yeah.
So you didn't think it was so terrible. Did you know that they were intimate?
Not for a long time, no.
So you took some money from her?
The loan was offered to me. What I did borrow from her, yes. Didn't take.
Well, tell me.
It was offered.
Right. And you took it?
It was offered
It was offered several times, and I did take it. Yes, I borrowed, yes.
Why?
Not $2,000.
How much?
$800.
Well, $800 in one lump sum.
Yes, ma'am.
We're talking about little bits at a time.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
All the withdrawals listed on there, there's only, I think, one deposit that I made for my birthday on April 8th. All the rest of the withdrawals were not from me personally using the money, but from him using the money.
You mean using it to go out on a date, maybe?
No, to take it and pay his bills, or to, for instance, I bought him a differential. He needed a differential. I loaned him the $150 as a deposit down on the differential for his...
Does that sound familiar?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I've been self-sufficient since I was 18 years old. I've paid all my bills. No. And no, she did not pay no gas, power, or electric bill. She loaned me, which was offered, $800, which I paid back. Now, I don't know where she comes up with this, no.
How much did you have in this account when you started dating?
To start out with, $2,200.
And prior to dating him, had you taken any money out of that account?
No, that account was saved up. I've been saving that money since I was 6 years old to go and buy a car when I was 16 or to go to college.
So what you're telling me is there were no withdrawals made from that account?
None. Zero.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Step up here, please, with your daughter. When did you find out that she was helping him out with money?
The first time I found out about it was his ex-girlfriend left a message on our answering machine telling Kelly that she would never get her $2,000 back, and a few other things she left on. And that was the first time I realized, uh-oh, she's really done it. She's given him some money. And I was afraid she wasn't going to get it back.
And when Mom confronted me, I did lie to her because I was trying to protect him.
When did you break up with him?
When? At the end of August.
Why?
He put his boot through the window of my parents' truck, kicked me in the face with it.
Why?
Lots of fights. We were in the middle of another fight, and it ended up in a domestic dispute.
Did you call the police?
Yes, I did.
In addition to the $2,000 that you say you took out of your account and gave to him, you're suing for $5,000 and the other for medical bills. For what?
During the time that we were together, I contracted a venereal disease, a virus called HPV. There's a letter from my doctor and bills, my medical bills for the last year.
Did you have sexual relations with anyone other than him during this period of time?
No.
What are you laughing about? Why is that a funny question?
No, just like that, no, no.
Well, if you have some information that she had sexual relations with somebody else, I'll hear you, sir.
She had a sexual relationship with a very close friend of mine.
When?
When? During the time that we were dating. Okay. The money that she loaned me, the $800, okay, yes, I did pay back. This was a doorway to open the account, and once the money had started being removed, the $800 that was loaned to me, then she went ahead and removed more money. Okay, whenever I caught up to this, and I confronted her about this, you know, spending money to go here, go there, I said, Kelly, you can't do that. That's not right.
Show me proof that you paid back the $800.
Show me proof that I borrowed $2,000.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When you fool around with jailbait, you sort of accept the consequences of that, sir.
And later today...
You're not a man. You're a little weasel.
Because
your whole family.
Just to put him away for 20 years. So.
You know what? You're all going to jail.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Atkinson is suing her former boyfriend, Daniel Cope, for money he took when they were dating. She also claims Daniel gave her a sexually transmitted disease and wants him to pay for her medical bills.
Now, you answered one question that I posed to you, sir, with a different answer. I asked you how you knew that she was having sexual relations with somebody else at the same time she was having sexual relations with you. And you are telling me about $800.
How do I know?
Yes.
Because I drove over to my buddy's house. That's where she'd spent the night instead of over at my house like she told her mother.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I caught them.
You caught them what?
I caught them in the house. Half dressed.
Does that sound familiar to you?
No, it does not.
Well, would you tell me what he's talking about if you know?
I have no idea.
Well, tell me about it, sir.
What do you want to know about it?
She was supposed to be spending the night with you?
Yes, Your Honor.
And?
And?
She wasn't there?
She was not there.
So you went looking for her?
I went looking for her, yes.
Well, I'm making this very easy for you.
Well, thank you.
Good. How much are your medical bills?
So far, out of pocket is $895. And I'm going to need many more.
Well, you know, you're partially responsible, madam. So's your mother.
Mm-hmm.
In my judgment. You said it. He was 23, going on 19. Mm-hmm. Probably more like 15. So, he's no genius. Your daughter is 15, going on 16, and clearly she's no genius. You're supposed to be smart enough to put your foot down and say, I don't want you to see this guy because he's too old for you, and I don't think it's appropriate at your age, at age 15 to be dating somebody who's 23 is not appropriate. Maybe when you're 30 and he's 38, it's a different story. But right now, it's not appropriate. That's your job as a mother.
Okay, now whenever Mom did find out about his age and how much we were hanging out together, I was lying to her again to try to protect him.
Your mother still says she knew very well that you were dating him and that she gave her tacit approval because she felt that he was immature enough to be almost a contemporary of yours.
And I trusted
Which is
them.
a kind way of saying it.
Very kind.
Very kind. So you bear part of this responsibility. You know. Have you had yourself tested, sir?
I had myself tested, yes.
Good. Do you have the results of the test?
I have what they mail me is a card that says you're okay, fine, that you don't need to call us, you don't need to contact us, that you don't need to come in.
Let me see.
Okay, this does not say nothing, but it's a mailer, all right?
Well, it doesn't say anything. What are you giving it to me for?
That's the only thing that I do have. Okay, if otherwise I'd have been notified, say, you know, I'd have gotten a phone call saying, come in, we need to discuss this.
What made you go here for blood tests, sir?
Because I started a new relationship and I wanted to get tested. I wanted to make sure that, you know, before I have an intimate relationship with anybody, that I do not have a problem.
Well, this is interesting because this was just done in October.
Yes, ma'am, I have a new relationship.
I heard that already. You sound like a broken record. But you stopped seeing her in August, right?
A year ago.
A year
ago.
Right.
Right, so this doesn't tell me anything because I don't know whether you were tested a year ago and were treated during the course of that year for anything. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She'd been having sex for long before I come around.
And later today,
You're a lying scumbag. Your whole family is that way. Your dad's constantly bails you out. Your whole family is that way.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Atkinson is suing her former boyfriend, Daniel Cope, claiming he gave her a sexually transmitted disease. Daniel says he knows nothing about it.
Mr. Cope, nobody is blameless in this situation. Unfortunately, you are the legal adult and she is the legal minor. And when you fool around with what we used to call, when I was a child, jailbait, you sort of accept the consequences of that, sir. You took out this money. This was your money supposedly for a car, correct?
For a car or college, whichever I decided that was more important at the time.
And so far you have medical bills in the amount of $895. I'm giving you a judgment in the amount of $2,895. I'm saying the following to you. You started off your life wrong. You're supposed to be smarter.
Mm-hmm.
You're 17 years old. Your mother is supposed to be smarter. Your mother is supposed to be protective. And as far as I'm concerned, this 15-year-old shouldn't have unfettered control over a substantial bank account. It's her money, but she's still a kid.
Right.
Fortunately, what was coming out wasn't money to buy drugs or other things, but it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta be very, very careful and very vigilant as a parent these days. I assume your new girlfriend is over the age of 18.
Yes.
Great. That's all.
All right, are excused. You may step out. Back there to your right, please.
And I thought maybe they'd be good for each other. Maybe she'd help him grow up a little bit, and he'd help her grow up a little bit.
And now the next case.
Party's on Lewis versus Lewis. Step forward, please.
Secretary Royce Lewis is suing her 19-year-old stepson, Daniel Lewis, for money she loaned him to buy a stereo when he was 16.
Okay, so that we understand who the cast of characters are in this case, this is your stepson.
Yes.
This is your biological son.
Yes.
Are you still married to his father?
Separated.
Married but separated.
Right.
Well, a couple of years ago, while you were probably all living together, correct?
Yes.
According to this, you made a loan to these two boys.
Yes.
To go out and buy some stereo equipment. At that time, he was 16.
Yes.
And it was your agreement that when he turned 18, he would pay you back.
Yes.
Turned 18?
Yeah.
What happened?
He never paid me back. The agreement was that when he turned 18, and I didn't ask for interest or anything, and before I gave them both the money, which was cash, I said, this is with the understanding that when you each turn 18 and get your money from your trust account, that you will pay me back the money that I've loaned you. And they both said yes. I said, then go get stereos for your car.
So you got a stereo for your car,
Yes, I did.
and you got one for your car.
Correct.
When did you separate from his father?
About 2.5, maybe 3 months ago.
And it was after that that you filed this lawsuit?
Right. I told him I was going to the time we were together, and he said I couldn't because he's a pastor of a church and it's his son, and I wasn't allowed to. I said he owes me the money and he's not paying it, and you're not doing anything to get it.
Well, but the marriage was already on.
Right.
Going.
No, actually, no, it wasn't.
Well,
but
then I'm going to tell you something. If you threaten to sue your
Well, no,
husband's son, that's a good time for marriage to start to go south.
Well, I didn't threaten immediately. I said, somehow something has to happen here. It's not right that he's getting away with all this.
Okay.
Okay. Our agreement, basically there was no agreement. She came up to, I did not ask for the money. I did not ask for anything from her. Me and James were both outside one day. She came right in front of our door. She walked down the stairs and was asking us if we had car stereos and how they worked and all this stuff. And she says, well, do you guys want to go down and get new CD players? And of course, I'm 16 years old. You know, I would love to have a new CD player for my car. So she gave us a blank check, said she told us how much we could spend. Me and James went down, got the same exact CD player. I came home, installed it in my car. Later that night, sitting in my room, she walked through the door and then told me that when I was 18, I could pay her back
That's a total lie.
because I was getting my settlement, okay?
So what did you say to her at that point?
Actually, I never said anything. I never actually said, okay, yes, I will do this, yes, I won't. But the thing is also, even if I had agreed to that, I moved up to Sacramento shortly before I turned 18. When I turned 18, I never heard nothing. To this very day, she has never verbally asked me for that money.
That is a total lie. His dad has talked to him.
Not since.
Not talking about his dad. He said to you.
My dad left her 2 months ago, and that is when this is happening. And she's suing 4 of my dad's friends.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Have fun in jail because that's where you're going.
Miss Lewis, a minor cannot make a contract. When he was 16 years old, he could not have entered into a contract, either oral or written, with you for anything. And there are times when, if you enter into an agreement when you're a minor, and if you ratify it later when you turn 18 or 21, depending upon the jurisdiction, then it can become enforceable. But he did not do that. He did not ratify it when he became 18. You cannot make a contract with a minor who is 16 and expect it to be enforced in a court. This lawsuit is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. That's back.
You got my case next, buddy.
Yeah, I've already reported you to Wells Fargo.
I really
for the
don't care.
check you forged.
I really don't care.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
You wouldn't have even had that money if it wasn't for me.
I got
said
it
you will
because
pay.
your son can't
you
drive and got in a car accident.
Shut up, you.
Why can't you be a man and pay the money
you
back?
You lied to your dad.
Because you can't hold a job.
Yes, you lied to your dad. You said you didn't get the money out of the trust account. I called
Okay,
the bank.
no,
You got it.
yeah,
Then
I
you
did
lied
get it.
and said,
The only thing was
then
I got
lied
it 3 months after I turned 18 because I couldn't. But what
because
does that
you were
matter?
too stupid to figure out how to
does
get
that
it on
matter?
your own. I know you can't do contracts with minors. I'm not stupid.
26-year-old Timothy West says when his engagement ring. Barbie says the ring was a gift.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Sir. Judge, this is case number 185 on the calendar in the matter of...
What took you so long?
We were supposed to get married in '95.
Yes.
And
Mr. West, you want the engagement ring back after 4 years.
yes,
Who broke the engagement?
she did.
Is that correct?
That's incorrect, Your Honor. There was a postponement. We postponed the wedding. It was something we
Well,
both...
somebody had to say, I think we ought to postpone the wedding. Who said that?
We both did, Your Honor.
She did.
The problems we were having were not going to change within 1 month's time. We were
so
supposed
you
to be...
postponed the wedding?
That's correct.
Let's say you postponed the wedding. According to your complaint, sir, despite the fact that you postponed the wedding, I married to someone else.
That's correct. Almost 1 year next month.
Tell me, Mr. West, she's married for almost a year to somebody else. What took you so long to get around to asking for the ring back?
She wasn't given back. I seen her in January of this year. Wasn't given back then. She might have been married, but I still saw her at her apartment.
It was December. I'm sorry.
Okay. Ultimately, after you were seeing each other, after the wedding was initially you're supposed to think about whether or not these are going to get better. Usually they get worse, right? Usually the best time you're supposed to have is when you're... So then let's get to the answer to the question that I asked you before. You brought the ring back to the jeweler.
That's correct.
Mr. West, how much did you pay for the ring?
Gabriel Gonzalez and his girlfriend Ruby Sandoval had a baby 8 years ago. Before they broke up, he bought a crib for their son. Now he wants it back for his...
Need child support. Just because he's the man doesn't mean he pays child support. For this child?
He's supposed to pay child support, but he's late all the time. He hasn't paid for this month. Yes. It's alternate
Why does he
weeks.
pay child support then?
What does he pay?
Why?
Sports activities, football, baseball.
That's
I
nice.
coach,
You're his
I'm all
father.
year
I
round.
just was talking about child support. If you each have the child same amount of time, you should each pay your own tab when the child is with you, at least up court. If you each have the child same amount of time, you should each pay your own tab when the child is with you, at least up. This case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. Step out.
Judge Judy
He's my world to me. He's #1 to me, and he always will
Takes
be.
him out of school. Not
We'll
very
find out.
important.
We'll find
Not
out.
very
We'll find
important.
out. You're the one that doesn't even pay for his school. Where are you going?
That's all she does.
Where are you going?
This is wasting my time.
Parties on Harder versus Novo. Step forward.
38-year-old Denise Novo for defamation of character. Jackie alleges that Denise liars are true.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 244 on the calendar in the matter of Harder versus Novo. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please. Have a seat, ma'am.
Mrs. Harder, the defendant, according to your papers, is the present girlfriend of your former husband.
Correct.
Who you allege defamed you, slandering you, and by publishing flyers demeaning your character and saying things about your children.
Yes.
Well,
Moved into a new home October of '96, and in February, my neighbors came to me, 3 separate neighbors came to me on one Sunday afternoon and said that prior to me moving in, a strange woman had gone through the neighborhood, knocked on the door, and handed out these flyers.
Can I see them, please? In and had conversations with them, correct?
Correct.
You didn't discuss these flyers in your answer, but I assume these flyers are flyers that you gave to them. Is that correct? All right?
I am not giving it back.
Very good. Give up this ring because it's going to be a constant reminder of this very bad period of time.
It is not a reminder of bad times for me. It's a reminder of all the good times for me.
Okay.
I am not giving it back.
Very good. A wedding dress, sir, $1,560 for the plaintiff. Consider yourself lucky, Miss Water. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
As a minister anymore, he cannot be a minister and act the way that he's been doing. He does.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. Nadine Munoz is suing her former fiancé, Andy Villapando, for the money she put toward her engagement ring because he cheated on her. Andy says,
Order, all rise.
Your Honor, this is case number 288 on the calendar in the matter of Munoz versus Villapando. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
Well, this is a new twist on an engagement ring case. Ms. Munoz, according to your complaint, you went shopping with this gentleman. You were becoming engaged, is that right?
Yes.
Yes. He didn't have any money or any credit?
None whatsoever.
So you put your ring on your credit card.
Exactly.
First mistake.
Exactly. Exactly.
In addition to that, you say he charged some. To make a long story short, you're here, so that means you're no longer engaged.
Exactly. We are no longer engaged. We're no longer in speaking terms whatsoever.
And so tell me what you want from him.
I want him to pay half of the engagement ring that I also have the appraisal on the ring.
I'm not interested in the appraisal.
Okay.
I'm interested in the bill of sale.
Okay.
Where is
I
it?
have the bill of sale.
$3,000 ring on my income, and I know he probably couldn't do it either, but it was something that he...
Earrings to go with it.
And you have the earrings?
Yes.
Just a lot of money.
Designer. It's not ridiculous, but it's just, I mean, $7,000 for a designer when the actual ring is only worth...
What I'm telling you is you're entitled to do with your money. She came to this court, right?
Yes.
You've been in treatment?
Yes. I've been sober ever since.
How long?
Longer than I had 2.5 months ago.
I know.
And I'm also on Prozac, and I've been...
Ms. Calder.
Yes.
She hasn't had a good time. You've been a friend for a long time. I'm going to give you your 5, that too. She feels terrible, and she didn't know what to do. It was either taking your jewelry, or not can be, are despicable pun scum. Afraid. That doesn't excuse her, but more sobering experience than the one you had here. Got it?
All right.
"26-year-old creative assistant Shelley Griffin wants $5,000 from 30-year-old engineer Eric Edwards for breaching an agreement to support her in his San Diego home.
Order, all rise.
Yeah, this is case number 299 on the calendar in the matter of Griffin versus Edwards. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. As I see.
Now, Miss Griffin, I'm going to be honest with you. I understand what you say in your complaint.
Right.
But I don't believe that this states a legal cause of action. You're suing him because you say that he enticed you to leave your home, in one place in California and moved to
Right.
San Diego because he said you were going to marry.
Right. Okay.
And that didn't work out, so you want $5,000.
Actually, the $5,000 is for costs incurred by me after I left my job, my home, moved to San Diego, and then 6 days after I arrived in San Diego, he basically threw me out. I was ineligible for unemployment because I resigned my position. I had nowhere to live, and I had no source of income. So I left, I was left basically with nothing. He promised me that if things didn't work out between us, that I could still stay with him until I got on my feet in San Diego. That did not happen.
Let me hear about this conversation that you had. You met when?
I'm going to say approximately about a year ago. We were just friends for some time before we started dating.
And then you started dating, and it was a long-distance dating relationship. Is that right?
Right. It was very short.
What do you mean it was short?
It was very short, a very short courtship.
It was a long-distance dating relationship, though.
Right.
You lived in Los Angeles, and you live in San Diego. Correct?
Correct.
All right. So it was a short relationship before he asked you to come down to San Diego?
Yes.
How long?
Approximately a month to 2 months.
How old are you?
I'm 27. I'll be 27 next week.
So you know the guy a month, and he tells you what?
He says that he wants me to move to San Diego, move in with him. He wanted to marry me. This is typically something that I would never do, but unfortunately I made the mistake, or the decision to do it, believing him, and 6 days later I was with nothing. I lost my deposit on my apartment because I had to forfeit my lease. I had no source of income whatsoever for food, for anything. He knew that when I came down to San Diego and agreed that I could stay there until I got on my feet. And that was the agreement.
What do you mean until you got on your feet? I thought he invited you to come down to marry him.
Yes, until I got a job and was able to support myself again.
So what he said was, if you come down and if you don't have a job, we'll live together and I will support you until you get on your feet. Is that what you're telling me?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
So what happened? 6 days later, you say, within 6 days it went sour. What happened in those 6 days?
Well, the way I recall it, we had a small disagreement earlier that morning. We had planned on going jet skiing that afternoon. I went and borrowed a wetsuit from someone, and I came home. There was a locksmith there, and all of my things were in trash bags in the middle of the living room.
What happened?
Didn't go exactly that way, Your Honor. Well, right from the very beginning, she said to me she was very dissatisfied with her job or living in LA. All of her friends were in San Diego. She had no friends in LA. She didn't like LA.
Had you lived in San Diego before you moved to Los Angeles?
About a year before that.
Okay, go ahead.
She asked me my opinion, and I said, you should come to San Diego.
Look at me, sir, not the floor.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. I suggested that if she wanted to, she could stay with me while she looks for a job, but it wasn't indefinite, it was temporary.
Had you discussed marriage?
No, absolutely not. No, no.
He even told me that he saw a ring that one of his best friends, I believe his name was Luigi, that he gave to his wife. He said, "How does 2.5 carats sound? The sooner I get a ring on your finger, the happier I'll be. Let's go to Vegas tomorrow." I mean,
Your Honor, that's untrue.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I was literally in fear she was going to poison my food or something or ruin my... I'm not kidding. I was actually scared of this woman.
And later today...
Did you ever hear the expression, it ain't over till it's over?
I guess...
Did you ever hear that?
Yes.
It's over.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Shelley Griffin says she gave up her job to move in with Eric Edwards after he promised to take care of her. Eric says he was just helping a friend by letting her stay with him for a short time.
Let's get to the separation. I'm curious as to why you took her things and put them outside.
Okay. Well, I helped her move all weekend, the weekend of August 3rd. I spent my entire weekend, rented a truck, did everything, moved her. And I noticed at the end of the day, after being totally beaten down, worn from doing this, that she never even so much as thanked me. And I said sarcastically, "Thanks, Eric." And she jumped down my throat for that. So that was one thing. There was flags all along the way, though. Right after she moved in, her mood was extremely negative and volatile. I couldn't do anything without wondering if she's going to jump down my throat about the smallest things. By Tuesday, we had broken up. And I said, "Listen, if you can just be nice and don't ruin my place, you can stay here while you're looking for a job still." Well, things just got worse, Your Honor.
How worse?
Well, I was literally in fear she was going to poison my food or something or ruin my... I'm not kidding. I was actually scared of this woman because there was no rhyme or reason why she would get extremely upset. And she was constantly negative.
Your Honor, can I? No? Okay.
Finally, we were split up, and I decided, okay, I'm going to try to make the best of a bad situation here, and I took her out platonically out Friday night to get some food and go to a club and stuff. The next day, I was going to take her to get some breakfast, and she, for no reason, just went berserk.
How berserk?
I had a cell phone in my car, and she said, "Oh, well, you got that so your other girlfriends can call you now?"
Oh, because they were calling.
Your Honor, they were not.
Go ahead.
Thank you for the beautiful dress, Eric.
Just, Miss Griffin.
Your Honor, I don't know what she's talking about.
Go ahead.
There's no other women calling me.
Whatever.
And we were, anyway.
You're not married.
She just went crazy, and she slammed my door when she got out to the car and said a bad word, and I just had enough. I just was like, I was living like a prisoner in my own home.
All right, it didn't work out.
And
so you took her stuff.
I took her stuff, only the shelved stuff. I didn't take any of the hung stuff, and I put the shelved stuff in bags. She got most of it that day. She got the rest of it the following day, and within a week, she had it all.
Okay.
So,
Miss Griffin.
It's obvious to me that he's delusional.
Miss Griffin, it doesn't make any difference whether he's delusional or not. You don't get compensated for making a bad mistake.
May I say that the day after he threw me out, I called him, and the woman that had called me the week that I was there, while he was out running around during the day, and said, "Is Eric there?" "No." "Would you tell him thank you for the beautiful dress? I love it." So I confronted him with, her name is Sally. She said, "Tell him Sal called." The day after he threw me out, I called there. It was quite late at night. She picked up the other phone. She was there.
So what?
Well, this may be why...
Just a second.
Maybe why I was thrown out. I don't know. But, Your Honor, when I was living there...
Let me ask you a question, madam. He doesn't look like he's a nut. He did come to Los Angeles from San Diego with a truck, correct?
Right.
And he packed your stuff with you?
No, he did not pack.
He schlepped your stuff on the truck?
Barely.
Miss Griffin, let's not play with each other.
We split the cost of that, by the way.
I don't care whether you split the cost or not. It wasn't his stuff. It was your stuff.
Right.
He's not moving himself. He was moving you. So he doesn't sound like a nut to me. He sounds either he too made a mistake because he took a weekend, whatever it was, came to Los Angeles, helped you move, rented a truck, moved whatever items you had, whether they be boxes or clothes or furniture or appliances or whatever else it was. He didn't do that because he intended 6 days later to throw you out.
Right.
So clearly, it wasn't working out.
That's right.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I don't drink at all. I'm very, very straight, and she loves to party.
And later today...
He had a relationship that was 4 years long. He doesn't understand that it's finished.
No, he doesn't.
It's finished.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Shelley Griffin wants $5,000 from Eric Edwards for breaching an agreement to support her in his San Diego home. Eric says he was just helping a friend by letting her stay with him for a short time.
It didn't work out for whatever reason. You don't get compensated for that, just like you don't get compensated for a bad marriage. This was even hardly a relationship. You had dated him For a month.
I understand that it didn't work out.
So?
But the only thing that I'm here for is the cost that I incurred because I was left in a position that he promised me I would not be in.
Look, madam, you're an adult. You're 27 years old. If you made a mistake in judgment and after a month decided to move back to San Diego, where you had come from, that's your mistake in judgment. You don't get compensated for that. You were in a relationship, according to you, for a month with this man. And you want to be compensated for leaving your job, for relocating, for finding another apartment. I mean, the alternative to that is to have stayed in an apartment with him.
Right, that was...
Which was untenable for both of you. So, Ms. Griffin, get on with your life. This case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
I don't drink at all. I'm very, very straight. And she loves to party. And she's not the same person, needless to say, when she's partying, and she does that practically daily. I think she's a little bit in need of therapy.
And now the next case.
Parties on Kelly versus Boyda. Step forward, please.
25-year-old student Mike Kelly says his ex-girlfriend, 24-year-old Nicole Boyda, won't return his possessions. Nicole claims Mike slammed her head on the floor.
Mr. Kelly, you and the defendant lived together for about 4 years, is that right?
That's correct.
According to the papers that I've read, there was some very bad altercation that you had. Some property was destroyed. You left.
Right.
You got a restraining order.
Yes, I did.
And when you left, there was some property in the defendant's possession that you say is solely yours.
That's correct.
All right, Mr. Kelly, tell me about the altercation and the property destruction.
Well, to start, we had a really good relationship for quite a long time. Leading up to this, we hadn't been getting along for, I'd say, about a year. And what we had decided to do, or I guess what it came down to, is that I would move out and leave her the apartment that we were both living in. Within a matter of about a month, I found a place and moved out. And about 2 weeks later, I had come back to get a motorcycle and some other belongings.
Okay, so you came back after 2 weeks to get the rest of your stuff.
Right.
What happened?
I was trying to talk to Nicole. I knocked on the door. She came out. We talked for just a second, and she went back in. And I knocked again. She came out. After about the third time, I was just aggravated. There's belongings of mine in there, and I kicked the door. It broke, and I left. And I found out later that I broke it pretty well.
Okay, that she had to pay for.
Yes, she did.
Okay. It was because of that incident that you got a restraining order?
Yes. Well, there was a lot of abuse that led up to me asking Mr. Kelly to leave.
What kind of abuse?
Well, there's one incident around December of '94, which I have medical reports, where he slammed my head into, we lived in the basement, so it was a cement floor covered by carpeting. When I asked Mike to leave, it was the end of, it was the first week in February. I asked him to leave in a month. I gave him a month.
Of '97?
Yes.
Well, Miss Boyda, you just told me about something that happened in 1994. You don't expect to drag up all those things that happened in 94, 95, 96, 97, and expect to be compensated for them now, do you?
Well, most of the compensation has been from the time that the door was broken until this point. On the time he broke the door, I got the restraining order, and he continued to contact me after that. As a matter of fact, I received a postcard in the mail yesterday from Mike.
That said what?
Would you like me to present it to you?
Yes, I would.
Okay. And I also received a card from him right before the case.
I'll see both.
The reason I keep having communication is that I care about her, and there was a really good friendship there that was lost, and I wish it hadn't turned out like this. And
well, I'm looking at this postcard. I mean, this isn't a threatening postcard. He's really professing nice things to you, right?
I don't see it that way. Pulsing through my veins as if caffeine, that scares me.
Well, this is the way you hear it. That this isn't a threat or a nasty postcard. Okay, let's take a
guess
look at
everything
number
I
2.
do is
But listen to
considered
me,
a threat.
Mr. Kelly. Did you ever hear the expression, it ain't over till it's over?
I guess.
Did you ever hear that?
Yes.
It's over. Miss Boyda,
Yes,
this is a lovely card.
it is.
It's a card from somebody who still professes to have very strong feelings for you. And there's nothing threatening about it. So, you had a relationship that was 4 years long. He looks like he's a pretty decent person. You may have had arguments, whatever. He doesn't understand that it's finished.
No, he doesn't.
It's finished. Okay? Now, how much did the dog cost you, Miss Boyda?
$250.
You have a receipt for that?
Yes, I do.
Can I have it, please?
I have a check. I paid restitution to the court for that. That's what I was ordered to do, along with the restraining order.
Okay, so you paid for the door.
Yes.
So just a
It's
second, Miss
the-
Boyda, he paid for the door?
I haven't received payment for
We
it.
both talked to
Let me
the
see.
court, and it's just takes a long time.
But you sent the check in.
Yeah, I was ordered to pay it by September 1st, and I paid it August 28th. That's the only sort of written
Okay.
notification.
Yes, he
that I
did.
have.
$250, so you should be getting it. The district attorney's not going to hold on to your check.
Okay.
Cross that off my list. I don't have to do any subtraction, which makes me very happy. Now, Miss Boyda, do you have his computer?
Yes, but the computer was stolen from the University of New Mexico.
I have.
Computer is his computer?
Yes.
As between yours and his, it's his?
I would say so, yes.
Good. So you're going to return it to him. Right?
Sure.
His software and accessories that go with the computer?
He can have it all.
Perfect. Gas grill.
That was a gift from my father.
He can have it.
Gas grill goes back. Mr. Kelly, you have other miscellaneous items that I'm not going to ask you because I don't need a laundry list of stuff, but you do have snow skis and boots that you bought for Nicole, which she promised to repay and hasn't paid in full.
Right, correct.
Go ahead. Let me hear.
That's it. She has made payment, so obviously there was an agreement there.
How much is owed on it?
I think it's about $300. I think it's more than that, but $300
Do you owe
would
him
be
that
fine.
money?
300.
You owe him that money?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You really look like two nice people. And it's unfortunate that you had to come to court to resolve this stuff, which is really, after a 4-year relationship, we're not talking about much.
I guess the mistake was getting in a relationship with a good friend.
Well, sometimes good friends become the best kind of long-term relationships, lifetime ones. This one didn't work out, Mr. Kelly, and I know that you're sad about it. And I assume that Miss Boyda is sad about it also, because she also invested 4 years. So you have to move on, you know? And if it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't meant to be. There's somebody else nice out there for each of you, because you both look like, as I said, decent people. All right. Within a week of today's date, Miss Boyda, you're going to return to Mr. Kelly his computer software and accessories, his gas grill, plus pay him the $300 that you owe him for, that you acknowledge that you owe him for the boots. Understood? Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
We had a really, really good relationship, and now that it's over, I see it a lot more clearly, where the good and where the mistakes were. And I think we both made mistakes, and we both didn't treat each other with the respect we should have. She saw the anger and she stopped me. I guess she did me a favor.
I hope.
39-year-old Laurie Mahal is suing petting zoo owner Gil Jones because his rabbit attacked her and bit her on the ankle.
Order. All rise.
Judge, this is case number 363 on the calendar in the matter of Mahal versus Jones. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, ladies.
Mr. Jones, you are the owner of a petting zoo. Is that correct?
Yes,
Is that
Your
a
Honor.
children's petting zoo?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you were there with your children?
With my one son with a play group.
And you allege in your complaint that while there you were bitten by one of his animals?
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
I was there in the petting zoo area, and I happened to see a young boy with long pants on get bitten by the same rabbit. And I spoke to the mother and I says, oh, check to see if he broke the skin. And when I said the skin, this rabbit came from behind the bench and grabbed my leg, bit in, and with his claws and everything, held my leg and wouldn't let go. I had to actually shake him loose from me.
When did you go to the doctor?
I went to the doctor's. It was almost 8:30 by the time I actually got the appointment.
The same day that
yes.
you arrived home?
Yes.
Do you have the doctor's report?
Yes.
May I see it, please?
It's all the medical.
I see, August 21st. Okay, clean wound, and then you were given some augmentin.
Augmentin.
Okay. Okay, sir. She
Your
says she
Honor.
was bitten by one of your rabbits.
I won't deny that, Your Honor, because it happens occasionally. I have no recollection of Mrs. Majul's incident. However, I might defer to my wife, who was in the barn at the same time we were. We were very busy that day, and she recalls offering some aid to some lady that came and mentioned that someone had been bitten by a rabbit.
Where's your wife?
It's my wife, Millie.
Would you step up, please? Do you remember this date in August? Do you remember this lady?
I don't remember the lady. I remember when the letter arrived and it said Oceanside. I remembered the group that arrived on the train that day at the farm.
Did you, in fact, assist someone who had been bitten?
A friend did come to me. I work at the entrance, and said that her friend was bitten by a rabbit in the petting area. I had hydrogen peroxide and Band-Aids for first aid, and she said my friend has taken care of it. She has an antiseptic in her purse. And I said, well, I'll send somebody in to catch the rabbit and remove it from the petting area. When you see them, point out which rabbit it is so we can remove it.
Mr. Jones, I am going to show you a document that's entitled General Liability Notice of Occurrence of Claim.
Yes.
And I want to ask you if this is something that you filled out. Is that something that you filled out for your insurance company, sir?
What I did, I sent a letter to the insurance company along with Mrs. Majul's letter explaining, to the best of my knowledge, after talking to my wife, the situation.
Okay.
And this document is fairly accurate, yes.
Okay. Now, I will tell you that this came along with your statements, your complaint, and your answer, along with several other documents that you wish me to consider. I was concerned about something that I read here, and I'd like you to see if you can explain it to me. It says that OP, which I assume is you, I don't know what that stands for, allegedly bitten by a rabbit. However, rabbit did not belong to you, captured rabbit someplace, and placed it in a cage there at the petting zoo. Now, do you remember who said that? Was it you or your wife?
My daughter actually caught the rabbit, Your Honor. At least she
You the
told
daughter?
me she did. It's my
Step up
daughter,
here.
Jennifer.
Jennifer, you caught this rabbit?
Yes, that's our policy. If one of the rabbits maybe gets too much handling, or they get sometimes too much handling, and we take them and put them in a cage in the back.
No, it says rabbit did not belong to you.
Right.
It was captured someplace.
I don't know about the captured part.
Well, that's what it says. Captured rabbit someplace and placed it in a cage there at the petting zoo. Does that mean it was captured someplace outside of the petting zoo? It was a wild rabbit?
What it is the public on occasion, if they don't want their animal anymore, excuse me, will drive by and let it out. So this rabbit was hanging around the petting area because of the other rabbits.
Do you know that for a fact, or is this something that you...
No, I know all the animals there, and this was an unusual
So this was
rabbit.
not a rabbit that was supposed to be on your petting farm. Is that correct?
Correct.
When did you first know that it was there?
It had been there probably 2 days, and you have to kind of see our place to understand it's hard to catch them.
What do you mean it was an unusual rabbit?
Unusual. It wasn't one of ours. I know them, and I knew it wasn't ours.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This rabbit was not our rabbit, and we didn't want this rabbit.
Unfortunately, what you're saying to me is only making matters worse, Miss Jones.
And later today,
Show me, since May, your checks to sign and travel.
Did you hear what I said? I said there isn't any.
There is.
I haven't paid since May.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lori Mahal is suing zoo owner Gil Jones because a rabbit attacked her. Gil says it wasn't his rabbit.
I have another question for you, because something that's concerned me. When you bring these animals into your petting zoo, were they tested for rabies?
Julie Ryan, she's the vet at the Orange County Animal Shelter. She comes on a regular basis to check the animals. They don't vaccinate rabbits for rabies, nor do they, if you were to get bit, they don't come and quarantine them.
Why?
Because that's what she told us. She's a head vet at the animal shelter. I called them to have clarity on that matter, and that's what...
So you mean to tell me that you can take in a wild rabbit, because as far as you know, this could have been a wild rabbit, wasn't one that was bred in your facility, and they are not vaccinated for rabies?
They don't vaccinate the rabbits for rabies. But this rabbit was, it was not our rabbit, and we didn't want this rabbit, but we couldn't catch it. So the shelter did come and take it. They came and took it.
Unfortunately, what you're saying to me is only making matters worse, Miss Jones, and I'm going to tell you why. Because, according to you, you saw this rabbit on your premises for at least 2 days before this incident occurred, and it was not removed. You knew that it wasn't a rabbit that belonged on your premises, so you knew that it wasn't one that had a history of being gentle and being used to being touched. And yet you permitted all these children to come and play in your petting zoo, despite the fact that you knew that this one animal was not one that you could vouch for. This was an animal that you knew you had not seen before, did not belong there, and and you knew that at least 2 days before this lady was bitten. So you're liable for her injuries. Now, what do you believe your injuries are?
Okay.
Is the question. You were bitten by a rabbit.
I was bitten, and I still have the scars, and I have pictures here, and these pictures were taken a month after the bite.
Let me take a look at them.
You can see the scar, and I can also show you the leg. It's still got a big purple scar on my ankle.
Well, I would like to see it. Ooh, that's nasty.
And this is 4 months.
That is nasty. You say that you missed work.
Yes, I missed 41 hours of
So you missed a week's worth of work?
Yes.
And how much, why did you miss that much work?
Because it was still painful.
What kind of work do you do?
It was swelling. I work on my feet. I'm a cashier. So I couldn't stand on my feet.
So you missed a week's worth of work. You had certain medical bills. They were minimal because you covered, your medical bills are covered. Your request is for $1,250, and that, I assume, includes pain and suffering.
Yes.
That's a minimal request, Mr. Jones. Quite frankly, you are absolutely liable for this rabbit that was on your property. And sometimes unfortunate things happen, I'm certain. But in this particular case, it's even more egregious, sir, because you knew that this rabbit did not belong on your property. You had no idea where it came from. You had no idea whether it was a wild rabbit and could have been infected. And you did not, according to what I've heard today, exercise due care in removing that rabbit immediately from your premises, which you should have. The rabbit bit her, and she's entitled to be compensated. 4 months later, she still has a substantial scar as a result of this. Judgment is of the plaintiff in the amount of $1,250 as requested. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
That's our story, and that's the truth, and that's all we can say. We can't really expound on what the judge ruled. She made her point of law very clear.
And now the next case.
Parties on Torres versus Biles. Step forward, please.
31-year-old Michelle Torres says her mother's ex-husband, 33-year-old Roger Bile, borrowed Michelle's credit card for an Aspen vacation. Roger didn't pay her back because he didn't go to Aspen.
All right, Miss Torres, the defendant was married to your mother.
Correct.
How long were they married?
About 6.5 years.
Is this your mother?
Yes, it is.
Are you now divorced, sir?
Yes.
But while you were married to her mother, according to this complaint, he borrowed some money from you by putting some tickets on a credit card that was yours.
Right, a ski package deal.
And you were all living together at this time?
Correct, I was living with them.
You made some payments?
Yeah, made some payments.
And he still owes you $1,100?
Correct.
So you want to tell me how this loan came about?
In December '94, Roger came to me and wanted to go to Aspen, Colorado for a ski trip. He asked me if
This
I
is
would...
Roger.
This is Roger. He asked me if I would put this ski package on my American Express card because the Ritz-Carlton was running a special if you put it on your American Express card. He had previously had an American Express card, but it had been canceled. I went to my mom, I told my mom, asked her, Roger wants me to do this, should I do this? She advised me not to. She said he still had unpaid bills and debts, but even though he made plenty of money, he's just kind of doesn't pay his bills. He had repeatedly promised that he would pay me back, and so I believed him, and it was a Christmas present for him and my mom and myself. It was a Christmas bonus as well. So I believed him.
What do you mean a Christmas bonus?
Well, I had worked for him, and he said it was my Christmas present and a bonus since I did such a good job working for his business. So we went on the ski trip. Everything was fine. We came back. He started...
The three of you?
The three of us went on the ski trip, went skiing, had a good time. And we came back, he started making payments, like he promised that he would pay my American Express card.
So this was a sign and travel on American Express?
Exactly.
So you don't have to pay it off at one time, you can pay off little bits at a time.
Right. So he kept promising me that he was going to pay it in larger chunks, and the chunks got smaller and smaller. And I believed him. He promised me that you're my stepdaughter, I would never screw you over, no matter what happens between him and my mom. In April of this year, he committed adultery on my mom, so my mom divorced him. And in May, he came to my work and said that he would give me $400 towards the $1,500 he owed me. The amount got down to $1,500 from $3,000.
It was originally $3,000.
Right.
He paid $1,500.
Correct.
He still owed $1,500.
Correct.
And then in May, he paid another $400.
Correct. Brought it down to $1,100.
Okay.
And right after I had him sign
this... So far, is that correct, sir? You made those payments?
It's been paid off.
So, Mr. Bile, so far, you made payments?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
3 weeks after Linda and I split up, everything from my home was stolen. Linda took it all. Every document, every paperwork, every receipt.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michelle Torres is suing her mother's ex-husband, Roger Bile, for not paying for an Aspen vacation.
What happened after May? He gave you $400.
And signed this receipt telling me he would pay me the rest of the $1,100.
Show it to him, please.
That's his original signature.
You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, after May, did he make any payments?
No.
Okay. Why not?
The debt she's talking about for the Aspen trip was paid in full.
No, it wasn't.
Church, don't speak.
The tickets that she's talking about that was on the sign and travel was for a trip for my ex-wife to go to Europe with her other daughter, and later on I found out her first husband.
No.
That was put on sign and travel. The Aspen trip was paid in full.
Show me.
I have no receipts.
Just a second. How much was the Aspen trip, sir?
About $3 grand.
Well, show me that you paid the $3,000.
I'd love to, Your Honor. 3 weeks after Linda and I split up, everything from my home was stolen. Linda took it all.
Mm-hmm.
Every document, every paperwork, every receipt.
Mr. Bile, so what you're saying to me, sir, is that you acknowledged that you put $3,000 on her sign and travel.
Correct.
And
I didn't. Michelle did it. It was an agreement we had at home. She lived with me at the time.
But that you agreed to pay for it, and you did, what you just said to me was it was paid in full.
Yes.
But you do not have any receipts to show or any checks.
I don't have them. I had to give them to another court.
Well, Mr. Bile, I'm not so sure that you can't get duplicate copies of every check, sir. But I'm looking at your answer. And your answer says, if I am liable for this debt, I hope you will recognize that it's a community debt and a 50-50 split with my ex-wife, as well as the $4,000 I already paid. So in one respect, you say to me here, sir, that you've already paid it.
I have
And
paid.
here, you say, if it is a debt, half of it should be hers.
There was $1,500 left on the debt. I don't say there wasn't. The Aspen trip was $3,000. The Europe ticket for Linda was $1,500. That's the rest of the portion that needed to be paid. There was two separate things that went on her sign and travel.
When do you say she came into your house and took all the records?
It's about 3 weeks prior to that.
3 weeks prior to what?
To the signing of that receipt.
Okay.
The reason I signed that receipt is because they said it's the only way I could get back some tax documents I needed.
I know that you say you signed this thing under duress, sir. I'm not interested in that. You don't look like the kind of man who would sign something under duress.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So what you're telling me is 3 weeks after they allegedly took all this stuff, you signed this document indicating you still owed her $1,500.
Yes.
Okay. So that your story to me, Mr. Bile, does not have a ring of truth to it. Because if you say she stole all your documents prior to this, then you should have all your documents subsequent to this. And if you admitted that you owed her $1,500 in May, you should have everything after May to show me that you paid her, because you say it's paid in full.
I haven't paid since May.
Well, why not?
Because I never, first of all, never got contacted from her or sent an invoice or any kind of documentation how much the payment was.
What do you mean how much the payment was? You signed something that said $1,500.
These were monthly payments that were set up.
Just a second. You had been paying Sign and Travel. Your checks went to your checks went to Sign and Travel, correct? Show me since May your checks to Sign and Travel.
Did you hear what I said? I said there isn't any.
There is.
I
Why
haven't
not?
paid since May.
Then I'm asking you again, sir. You had paid before May, and you say you don't have those checks because they were all stolen. So since May, you should have the checks if you in fact paid. And if you didn't pay, then according to this signed document, which is a note, you still owe her the money, which is, at this point, $1,100 because you paid her $400 in May.
Okay.
Judgment is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,100. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Forget it. I'm done. I'm done.
Loser.
I'm done. I told you to
I'm
keep
sorry.
away.
I'm sorry I said something like that on camera.
Completely
I'm
lying.
Sorry. I'm sorry. He's done nothing but
he's dirt.
just want to have fun, fun, fun all the time. It doesn't matter what he does. He just enjoys the fun and throws everybody else away and everything away. Never pays the bill. Never does anything.
Yeah.
All he does
He's
is
slime.
care about himself.
He's slime. He's slime.
Jeff and Lori Haskett say neighbor Carol Woolfolk slandered and defamed them in a letter circulated throughout their neighborhood. Carol is countersuing the Hasketts for discrimination and harassment.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Your Honor, this is case number 432 on the calendar in the matter of Haskett versus Woolfolk. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats.
All right, Mr. and Mrs. Haskett, you are alleging that the defendant, who I assume is a neighbor of yours, has defamed you by sending out a series of letters about you to neighbors and one to an employer. Do you have copies of those letters?
I certainly do.
May I see them, please? Did you write this letter?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
And who did you circulate it to?
Only to the tenants in the park and the people that CC'd on there. No employers. That's not true.
Well, there are a lot of things in this letter. It's sort of a rambling letter. But there are several things in here that I want to address specifically. Show me proof of arrests for driving while under the influence of alcohol.
I can't show you proof of that. It's something that she...
No, did she... Just a second. Did you
About
have
that?
any written proof that she or her husband have arrests...
I didn't say her husband. I said she specifically.
She has arrests for driving under the influence.
No, this was something that she told me
She
specifically.
has arrests for driving under the influence.
No, this was something that she told me. If it's a lie, she told it.
Did you ever tell her that you were arrested for
Yes,
driving?
sir, I did.
Why did you tell her that?
Okay, because...
Was it true?
Yeah, it's true.
Okay.
But that's my business.
Just a second. Loss of custody of her child. Welfare fraud.
Again.
Welfare fraud.
Again, something she admitted to.
That's not true.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
This is something she admitted to. I have witnesses to that, too, Your Honor.
Yeah, oh, no, I never committed fraud.
Just a second.
Oh, no.
Eviction after eviction the last several years.
Okay, can I tell you why some of these things I know? Over the past few years, I worked legal at some time, and they were thinking about having me do a bankruptcy for them, okay? And this is all the information that came out during that time when they were trying to tell me about their bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Woolfolk, I have a couple of questions. I mean, there are a lot of things in this letter that suggest that you people don't get along as neighbors.
Don't at all. You're right.
And that you intend to pursue this matter legally, and that, according to the letter, you are trying to get a restraining order against the plaintiffs. Just pay attention. You are trying to get a restraining order against them to stay away from you and your property.
Exactly.
And I assume that the thrust of this letter, you say, which brings me to the focal point of this letter, that you are trying to get a restraining order and request the assistance of, I assume, all the people that you sent this letter to. Should you see either one of these two people in or near my property, please call 911.
That's correct.
Right?
Continued harassment.
Just a second.
Intimidation.
So my question to you is, what do the following things have to do with you? DUI arrests, loss of custody of her child, welfare fraud, eviction.
What did they have to do with me personally?
Yes.
Or the sale
Shut
up. Okay. They had, personally, they had nothing to do with me.
Good. So
Okay.
what do they have to do with the focal point of this letter?
The focal point of the letter was to say these people are intimidating me, these people
Well, you've
are
said
harassing
no.
me.
You've said that.
That these people are accusing me of calling a social worker. Did you read that part?
No,
They're
I'm-
accusing me of turning them into welfare fraud.
No, listen to me. I'm not addressing that.
Okay.
I'm looking at this letter, and you say that they have done and said a lot of very hurtful things, hurtful and harassing things
Yes,
to you.
that's true.
None of which is germane to any of these acts that you attribute to them. The DUI arrests, the
Right.
loss of custody, welfare fraud, anything else. That doesn't have anything to do with what you're complaining about. So you gratuitously put that in this letter.
No, that's...
Sure, I understand what you're saying. I think you're full of baloney.
Yeah.
I think that you put this in the letter just to embarrass them. Sure, I understand what you're saying. I think you're full of baloney.
Yeah.
I think that you put this in the letter just to embarrass them.
Well, she needs to be
No,
embarrassed.
no, just a-
you know, I wanted to keep her from intimidating me anymore.
No, okay.
I wanted to stop her from
Okay.
harassing me.
Okay.
She stayed in the house 3 weeks, and that
Okay.
was fine
Now,
with
just
me.
a second.
She should have been embarrassed.
Hey.
I was.
Hey.
Humiliated, embarrassed.
Hey, just a second. You want to say something? You're dying to say something.
Yes, I am.
Well, stand up.
That's not true, Your Honor.
What's not true?
This woman is harassing her.
I haven't gotten to that yet.
Okay, well.
Just a second. I'm talking about this letter. That's what I'm talking about. That's the first thing I'm addressing.
I
I'm going to
understand.
address everybody's
I
complaint.
understand
I'm addressing this letter, and I absolutely understand that if any of this is true, it's conduct that should not be tolerated. If any of this harassment is true, it should not be tolerated.
Right.
What I'm addressing is the gratuitous,
She's saying I shouldn't have said that.
gratuitous statements in here
Okay.
about them that had absolutely nothing to do with the problem of harassment. You got it? Do you
I understand that. I understand.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I wrote the letter in November. This recording was made January the 15th.
You wrote, Carol, watch your back.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jeff and Lori Haskett are suing Carol Woolfolk for defaming them to their neighbors. Carol claims the Hasketts make discriminating remarks against her.
You have a counterclaim.
Yes, I do.
You have typewriter estimate, $150.
Correct. That's the typewriter that
That's
they've
the
had since November the 7th.
How did they get the typewriter, Miss
He
Woolfolk?
they came over. She came over first and asked me to loan it to her. I have two.
I didn't. Shut up!
Lie. I'm sorry. Okay, I told her no. So, of course, he comes. Jeff, I never have a problem with. Never have. It's her. Jeff asked. I said, Jeff, how long you want to use it? A week? Fine. Time went by. Jeff, you going to bring it back? Yeah, I'll bring it back. Didn't show up. Didn't show up. When is he going to bring the typewriter back? When they feel like it. This was her. This is when she came to my house, knocked on my door, cussed me out, told me she was not giving me the typewriter back. I was all these slanderous things. She scratched my car with her keys and then ran home with her daughter.
Okay, now let me stop you right there.
Okay?
Okay, let me stop you right there. I assume, Miss Woolfolk, from what you say, there was a time when you had a reasonable relationship enough with these people so that you just listen.
Okay.
You had a reasonable enough relationship with them or with him.
With him, yeah.
To lend him your property, a piece of valuable property.
Exactly.
What happened?
How can I put this delicate? It's not him, okay? If it was him, I would have got the typewriter back. It's been gone since November 7th. This is January.
Okay, but is that what caused the problem, the typewriter?
Yeah, that was her. She wouldn't return it.
Just a second. Is that what caused the problem, the typewriter?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
She cussed me out over typewriter.
Okay. Now, would you please take the typewriter from that side and put it on that side?
No, you leave it over there. I don't want it back. I replaced it since November because it's something I used.
Let me see the receipt for the replacement.
They've had it since November. I use it to do like evictions and things like that.
Shh. Hey.
You don't know what I had.
Hey. This is an estimate of repairs.
Yeah, because I bought a used
Dated
one.
1/28/97.
I wouldn't have got that today. Yes.
You got it today?
Yeah, I got it today.
Return the typewriter to her. Just a second. Let us move on. Let us move on. Loss of wages, $1,800. And you say you loss of wages for what, Ms.
Because they took me to court for this frivolous lawsuit.
Which frivolous lawsuit?
This one that we have here. This one here where it all started over typewriter where they could have returned it, you know, and the thing would have been gone away. This walking down the driveway calling me all these MF, you know, I don't have to take that.
Who's they? Who's
you know,
they?
her, not they.
Not
her.
trash.
Her specifically.
Okay.
Her specifically.
Just tell me white trash.
And then,
wait a second. Miss Haskett, did you ever say those words?
No. No, I didn't.
No. Well, you were, just a second. You were going to say to me, no, I never said them in front of my daughter. That's what you were going to say, right?
Right.
Just a
Call me
second.
white trash. That's what she called me, white trash. My kid heard it, too.
that's not.
All they do
I
is
wouldn't
pick on
do
my
that.
kid.
That's not my
She
style.
can't even play outside because of you guys. Because you go out and you call
Can
me
you ask
bullshit
me,
names.
Miss Haskett, I want you to answer a question for me, madam. Why didn't you return the typewriter?
No! Not you.
Hmm.
Because we paid her $20 to do a bankruptcy in January of the year before.
Just a second. You paid her You paid her $20 in January of. You paid her $20 in January of 1997 to do a bankruptcy for you. Slowly. And then what happened?
She never did it.
So She never did the bankruptcy for you for $20. Hey,
I'm sorry.
I want you to be quiet.
I'm quiet.
So you borrowed her typewriter. You did.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm still waiting for you to tell me why you didn't return the typewriter.
Because she never finished the bankruptcy.
So you decided to keep her typewriter. And that's what all this trouble started over. Come. Because if this lady was supposed to do something for you and you paid her $20, come. Because if this lady was supposed to do something for you and you paid her $20 and she didn't do it, you had several choices. You could have either written it off, you could have written her a letter, and you could have said, I want my $20 back.
We did.
And if she didn't give it to you, you could have sued her. But what you chose to do is take her very expensive machine and keep it, according to your wife, sir, unless you're calling your wife a liar.
No, but
You
ma'am,
calling your wife a liar?
No, I'm not.
Well, that's what she says.
I'd
She
just like to
says
finish
she
my
kept.
sentence.
What?
I'd like to finish what I was going to say.
Go ahead.
This $150 typewriters of hers, she kept outside in the yard.
rain.
It was an extra. It was rusty. It never.
What does that have to do with you? Whether she keeps it outside, whether she keeps it hanging from her. What does that have to do with you? Whether she keeps it outside, whether she keeps it hanging from her tree, whether she wants to wear it as a lorgnette around her neck. It's her typewriter. She can do whatever she wants with it. You went over and borrowed it.
Bingo.
Don't irritate.
I'm sorry.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You cannot prove without a voice expert, and I'm certainly not
I'll
a
gladly
voice
bring my
expert.
phone bill and that'll prove it too.
Do I look like I need help from you?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jeff and Lori Haskett say their neighbor, Carol Woolfolk, slandered them. Carol says they harassed her.
It was very, very wrong of you to write this letter. Because it's not right to divulge things that have been told you in some sort of a confidence. Whether
It wasn't
was
a confidence.
Sure it was. You just
No, they
told...
knew.
No, listen to me.
Everybody knew.
Hey, I'm really smart.
Okay.
All right? You just told me 5 minutes ago, and my memory is totally intact, that you found out certain of this information when you were
eviction.
preparing their bankruptcy. So that was told to you in what we call a fiduciary relationship, which means you were preparing papers for them and you found out certain information.
Can I say something?
Nothing. You have to acknowledge that it was the wrong thing to do to put that thing in this letter.
When you're angry, maybe sometimes you do wrong things.
That's
Okay.
right. So you were angry.
Okay.
Do.
Yeah.
That's what the officer told her to do. She called
Well, he
Gardena.
he didn't tell me specifically to do that.
Of course she did. Why don't you
Okay.
just sit down?
But he did
Hey,
tell me to write the letter.
Hey, why don't you just sit down?
But he did tell me to write the letter to stop the intimidation and harassment.
Listen,
He suggested.
I said to you, there's nothing wrong with
Yeah,
writing the
exactly.
letter. The problem was the other things that you put in the letter. That
Yeah,
you,
you know, you're angry. You're angry.
Ah,
You've
that's
been wrong.
Me of doing
You know,
criminal activities,
people.
like selling food stamps.
Hey,
She bought them.
listen.
You're a liar.
Listen to me. Listen to me. You don't come into court, sir, with clean hands. Neither you nor your wife. You know what that means? It means that you started this problem. She reacted to it, but you started it. And you started this because you did the wrong thing. Now, you say that you have received death threats.
Yep.
And you wanted me to hear, I assume, something on that tape recorder.
Carol, there's the people up front. I've read the you wrote.
In a letter.
You are not going to get enough until we come through that brilliant. Carol, watch your back.
Does that sound like my voice?
141.
We didn't do it. Prove it. Go
Let's
to the phone
tape my
company, prove
voice
it.
on there right now
That's
and
why
see
I'm
what
Holy
it
Bible. I
sounds
didn't do
like.
it. We are not that dumb. We took it to court.
I wrote the letter in November. This recording was made January the 15th.
Doesn't matter.
Which means everyone in the park had a copy of that letter and had gone on, like about the typewriter. Actually, Your Honor, I forgot about it. They could have kept it. I had another one that I was using. Life goes on.
Miss Woolfolk, I am presented with a really serious problem in this case. each of you is suing the other for $5,000. You cannot prove without a voice expert, because then I'm certainly not
I'll
a voice
gladly bring my
expert.
phone bill and that'll prove it too.
You could have called for just a second. Do I look like I need help from you?
Sorry.
You cannot prove without a voice expert that this recording, as disgusting as it is made by anybody standing on that side of the table.
I cannot prove that, you're
right? So what I have here is a situation where these people started a problem. They started a problem by taking your property and not returning it. Clearly wrong. I absolutely believe, because she says it, that she called you vicious names, she says, in front of her daughter. So that makes it okay.
Oh
Hey.
that's not true. I'm sorry.
Could you speak, please?
That
Just a
is
second.
not true.
Is that true, Kara?
That is not true.
Just a second.
That is not true.
You're not even listening.
I am.
What I don't.
That's not
what
true.
What's you mean?
That is not true.
I told you to sit down.
Yeah, well, I'm just.
I told
that's
you
not
to
true.
sit down. Do you understand
That's
what I
not
said? Because
true.
this lady is not wrapped too tight
Yeah.
because she doesn't understand
Yeah,
what
I'm
I
not
said.
wrapped too tight.
You
That's
said-
not true.
Put her out.
Ma'am, step out. No, this way.
I don't care.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now, Mr. and Mrs. Haskett, you want $5,000?
Yes, ma'am.
You get $5. That's what you're going to get. You started this problem, and that's what you're going to get, $5, which, madam, you are going to have to pay them. Do you understand? $5.
So I get harassed, and I
Just
get
a second.
Okay.
Just a second. Now, you have a counterclaim.
That's right.
And she has acknowledged that she called you names which are terrible.
Made life uncomfortable.
Made life uncomfortable.
Not as uncomfortable as you're making it for my daughter.
And you have a legitimate complaint against them. So I am awarding you on your counterclaim $5. You understand? You people had better stop torturing each other. You did the absolute wrong thing. She did the wrong thing by circulating those things in that letter against you. She did the wrong thing. She acknowledges she did the wrong thing.
Yeah,
she says she was angry.
Yeah.
She was angry because of the way you were treating her. And you were treating her in a miserable way, considering the fact that you started all the trouble over this stupid machine.
Don't work. See? It don't work.
We each have a judgment for $5 against the other. Thank you very much. This case is over.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, out the back door to your right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Yeah.
This is illegal to send a letter talk to somebody.
Yeah, wait, sure, that's true.
Freedom of the press.
Freedom of the press? If you can prove it.
Oh, that's your thing.
Yeah.
You always defraud people, say.
Don't you
You know,
not-
you don't ever want your stuff out.
Prove it, honey.
See?
Prove it.
Don't you remember when I
DUI.
was in the...
Prove it.
"36-year-old antique dealer Dana Ferguson is suing her father, businessman Frank Ferguson, 61, for stealing antiques and artwork. Frank is countersuing his daughter for her latest unpaid loan.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 469 on the calendar in the matter of Ferguson versus Ferguson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
Miss Ferguson, this is your father.
Yes, ma'am. Your Honor.
And you claim that your father has some valuable pieces of antique and paintings that belong to you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
And he said that he made a loan to you. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
one of many that he's made, but the last loan was for $2,000. When was that made, sir?
That was made on May 23rd, 1995.
And that these things were given as collateral for that loan.
No, Your Honor.
Is that right?
That's right.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So why don't you tell me how your father came into possession of your things?
I had purchased a home, and I rented a truck. The truck broke down. I took care of an elderly stroke patient, 6 days, 6 nights. I was out of time, out of desperation. I had rented trucks many other times.
Come on, just let's get to it, please.
I'm sorry. Anyway, I asked him. He
You
agreed.
asked your father?
Yes.
To help
He owns
you?
a trucking company. He agreed. I never saw my things again.
That's not what you say in your complaint, madam. That's not what you say in your complaint. You don't say that you didn't get any of your things. You say some things were missing.
The things that he took from his truck, I never received.
You want to respond to that, please?
Yes, Your Honor. I own a trucking company. Dana lost her house in Woodland Hills, or Agora Hills, she got thrown out. She asked me to store this material. I had stuff in my warehouse for over 3 years. She bought a house after she had a settlement. I sent 7 loads of her stuff. I give her a little Toyota pickup truck to take a walk through my warehouse, to take anything that she thought was hers.
How much after the move did she come to do the walkthrough and you sent 7 loads of stuff to her house?
It was within weeks.
And how long ago was this?
Oh, this was 2 years ago.
Is that when you moved?
No, Your Honor.
When did you move?
I moved in October of 1994. He continued
just
to
a second.
Put me off.
Just a second.
I'm sorry.
1994
yes,
is when this happened. So we're now talking 4 years ago almost, right? 4 years.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, he says that he stored stuff for you.
He did not store. There was never permission to store. I never...
He says that he sent 7 loads of stuff to your house.
It never came to my house.
Just let me understand this. This happened in 1994.
Yes.
Right? Now, when did you borrow $2,000 from your father?
I borrowed money from him on May 23rd, 1995. I was under the impression he would still relinquish all of my items to me. I had no inclination that he would ever. What father would steal from their daughter?
Just a second. He's not suing you. You're suing him.
You know what father would steal from their daughter?
I'm not sure whether he did. What I want to know, madam, is why, if he had your stuff in 1994, and you didn't get your stuff in 1994, so you were angry, I assume, right?
You know what? I wasn't angry. He kept telling me that I would get it. He couldn't get a truck. I kept offering trucks. It was like one excuse. You don't know this man. One excuse.
Well, I don't know him, but you know
another.
him. Listen to me. I don't know him, but you know him well enough. You borrowed another $2,000
I didn't know him like
from
that.
him. Tell me about the $2,000 that you borrowed from him.
Well, he must have trusted me to do that. I trusted him.
Ms. Ferguson,
I trusted
why
him.
did you borrow $2,000 from him?
I borrowed it out of necessity.
Well, for what? What did you tell him? Tell me about it. You called him?
I called him. He said he's going to need more copies of my appraisals of my pictures. He wanted something else as collateral. He said that what he had.
Just a second. We didn't get to the collateral yet.
Okay.
You called him up and said, "I need money."
Right. He said.
Well, tell me about the conversation, madam, slowly.
Okay, I'm trying.
Called him up and you said, "I need money," right? And did he ask you what for?
Yeah. Yes.
And what did you say?
I said, well, after purchasing my home, I was in between jobs. May I borrow this? When you give me the rest of my stuff, I will, if I need to sell it, I'll sell it. Because he had everything I owned. But I trusted him. He's my father. What reason would I not have to trust him? I wouldn't lie about this. There's no reason for me to. He's taken my whole life away.
I'm still not following your story, madam. You want to tell me about this?
Okay, it's not the first time she needed money. She's an older lady now. I figured she needed responsibility. Last time she needed money, she needed $3,500. I told her to go to her attorney that she's handling the case. I'll give
What
her the
case?
30. She had a suit for damage. She got hurt in an accident. I love this girl terribly, but I want her to grow up and take responsibility. So I says, I'll give you the $3,500, but you've got to make sure I get it back. I have young children. I've got to make sure they're provided for. The court case was settled. I got my $3,500. Everything was fine. I get a phone call. She said, Dad, I need money. I can't make my payments on my house. I need $2,000. I says, Dana, I will not give you any money unless I have something in collateral. By this time, I had nothing. So I met her at this restaurant. I was with my nephew and one of my children, my younger ones. I let her make the note out. I give her the five $100 cashier's checks plus $1,500 in cash. She went out to her car, unloaded the stuff into my
Unloaded
van.
what stuff?
Stuff. I mean, she had a statue, some paintings rolled up. I had that as collateral. I didn't even know if it was worth anything. I just said I want her to have responsibility. I can no longer just give her things. She has to take responsibility.
Okay. Good. Stop playing with the papers.
I'm sorry.
Stop playing with papers.
Pardon me.
A couple weeks later, she calls me up. I have to have my stuff. I've got to sell it. I said, Dana, you've left it for collateral. You've left it for collateral, honey. You've got to take responsibility.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I'm humiliated by him. How embarrassing to have a father like this. I can't even walk into an art gallery anymore.
And later today,
it has cuffs, and so where I threw up was on this side, but when they dry cleaned it, they uncuffed it. Some throw up was still here.
How lovely.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dana Ferguson claims her father stole antiques and artwork. He says the pieces were collateral for a $2,000 loan.
I was at Lake Mead 4th of July weekend. All the families invited. All my daughters, my youngest daughter came up. Mark and his fiancée was there. She got sick, and they went home early. I get a phone call that Dana, her boyfriend, and his boyfriend's mother broke into the house.
Who did you get a phone call from?
Mark.
Mark, step up here. Okay, you're out on this trip. Is your father?
Yes.
My stepfather.
Stepfather?
I was on vacation at Lake Mead.
You went home early.
Yes.
And what happened when you went home?
The next morning, we were home, received a knock on the door. It was Dana, her boyfriend. She wanted to come into the house and get her stuff. I said, I know nothing about this. My stepfather, Frank, was on vacation. You'll have to wait until he gets back. I tried to close the door at that point. They pushed the door in, pushed me to the ground, roughed me up a little bit, came in and started taking things. I yelled at my fiancée to call the cops. She did. They came. The cops stopped them from taking the stuff, and they left.
Does that sound familiar to you?
Your Honor, it's twisted.
Did you go to the house?
Yes, after I was told everything was sold.
Just a second. I don't care what you were told. Did you go to the house when your father wasn't home?
Yes, I was instructed to do so by my mom.
I don't care what your mom told you.
I know. You're right.
Police were called?
I wanted them to arrest me because then somebody would defend me. Somebody would have seen that all my things were there.
Listen, I believe your father, madam. I believe your father that he lent you $2,000. You acknowledge that he gave you $2,000 and he took things as collateral.
Have you seen the note, Your Honor?
What note?
This is the note. It only states 2 items.
Let me see.
And here's what he sent me only 2 months later. Okay.
Okay. This says that you have 2 items. So as held as collateral. And do you still have these 2 items in your possession?
She broke into the house and took one of those 2.
Which one did she take?
The statue.
Is that the bronze?
Yes.
Your Honor.
Mother and child?
Yes. She only had one of those.
Your Honor.
And the other one is an Erte?
Yes, I had it at the time.
Okay.
Luckily, the police made her put it back.
Your Honor.
What?
The van was searched. Everything was taken out. I wasn't allowed to. Nothing was relinquished back to me. Nothing. I didn't receive anything. I didn't take anything out of his house. I never asked for anything that belonged to him. I was willingly going to give him that $2,000. I had asked him, please allow for me to give you the $2,000 so I may have everything that belongs to me.
So why didn't you give him the $2,000?
Your Honor.
Who are you?
My name is Oscar Dustam. I'm a witness.
What did
And
you see?
He never wanted to collect the $2,000. My family and I collected the money, and at that time, I spoke to Dana and tried to get in touch with her father, and he refused to get her things back.
Just a second, sir. Did you ever have a conversation with him?
No.
So you were going to get $2,000 and give it to her?
Yes.
But she never gave it to her father?
No, he refused.
Well, did you hear him say, I refuse?
Over the intercom, Your Honor.
Are you her boyfriend?
It's on a tape.
Yes.
Yes, what?
Yes, I'm her boyfriend.
Are you the one who broke into the house when he wasn't home?
I did not break into the house, Your
Never
Honor.
broke in.
Are you the one that went into the house to retrieve property?
No, Your Honor. I stepped into the door, and by the time this gentleman, the stepson, came, he was feeling bad, and he came and he tried to push us back, and everything started just going
Just a second.
Chaos.
Just a second. What right do you have to be in his house?
I was not in his house. I was at the door with her.
What right do you have to be in his house?
I was permitted to come into the corridor.
By whom?
By him. He allowed me, he opened the door and allowed me in. And once I was in, then he came after me.
What were you going there to do?
I had my box with all of my receipts, and I said, please, just give me...
You were going there to take property.
To take what belongs to me.
You were going to his house when he wasn't home to take property. Is that what you were doing, madam?
There was somebody in the home. I would have...
Listen. This is baloney.
Can
Listen
you
to me.
See my certificates?
I don't want to see your certificates.
He victimized me because he knew he can get away with it. He's done this to a number of people. You don't know this man.
I don't know him, and I don't know you.
Unfortunately, I know him now.
Listen to me. I don't know him, and I don't know you. All I know is the story that you're telling me doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
It doesn't make sense. And common sense usually is right. It doesn't make sense that your father, who you asked for help, took your property and stole it. And after he stole your property, you called him up and asked him for money. He lent you money, and he wanted collateral. And you gave him collateral, and then when he wasn't home, this makes sense, when he wasn't home, you, your boyfriend, and your boyfriend's mother went into the house without his permission.
Everything was there, Your Honor.
It was there. I described everything I owned.
We didn't even have to go into the house.
I
Everything
thought
was...
you said, sir,
No.
that you
wouldn't have had
Listen to me. How could you stand there and tell me, sir, that everything was there when you just told me 2 seconds ago that you never got past the front door?
Please
Everything
don't make
was
him
hanging
right again.
on the walls. Your Honor, you can see pictures of her.
I don't know what this is about. I don't know the history of this family. Clearly, it's a pathological situation.
I would never lie, Your Honor. These things belong to me. I don't want what doesn't belong to me. I never asked for what doesn't belong to me.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today,
She doesn't have to have your coat with your DNA on it, right?
Yes.
You have the coat with your DNA on it.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dana Ferguson claims her father stole antiques and artwork. He says the pieces were collateral for a $2,000 loan.
According to your father, has always been this way. Is that right?
No, Your Honor. He'd been through therapy.
What about you?
I had to.
For a long time?
On and off. Yeah. But nothing to, because you have this as a father, of course.
Listen to me. If you have this as a father, and if you've been in therapy for years because you have this for father, you don't call and ask him for money. How old are you?
I'm 36.
Well, you know, there comes a time you got to stand on your own 2 feet,
You're
madam.
right.
You're
I bought my
absolutely
own
right.
house.
So you got to stop.
I moved out when I was 18. I was the only one with a relationship with this man.
Well, you don't have one anymore. It's too bad. I am not convinced, madam, that he stole your property. And, sir, you have the collateral.
Yes, ma'am.
Do what you want to do with it. That's all.
I sold it to pay the doctor bills.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
This is so wrong.
There you are.
You didn't win again, you scum. I thought there would be justice in this world. I really thought somebody would come to my aid. There's a day it's going to come, and he's going to have his day. And I'm so sad. I've lost everything that I own. I'm humiliated by him. How embarrassing to have a father like this. I can't even walk into an art gallery anymore.
And now the next case.
Party's on Moffitt versus Scott. Step forward, please.
18-year-old nursing assistant Tina Moffitt is suing her cousin, 26-year-old Cotelia Scott, for ruining her fake fur coat.
This is your cousin?
Yes, it is.
You borrowed her coat?
Yes, I did.
And you got sick all over it?
Yes, I did.
Why? Drinking or just sick?
Drinking.
So you drank, you got sick all over her coat?
Yes, ma'am.
You want a new coat?
Yes.
And how much did you pay for the coat?
I paid $178.46.
And when did you buy the coat?
My fiance bought the coat. On the paper it has October 27th.
When did you borrow the coat?
January 17th.
All right, so Miss Scott, why don't you tell me why you don't think you're responsible for buying her a new coat?
Well, first of all, when I borrowed the coat from her, I went out, had too much to drink, I got sick. The next morning, I took the coat to the cleaners. I had it dry cleaned. It should have been fine. I picked the coat up, and it has cuffs. And so where I threw up was on this side, but when they dry cleaned it, they uncuffed it. So when I inspected it and rolled the cuff back up, some throw up was still here.
How lovely.
And he said, if you give me a couple of minutes, I'll take care of that for you. And so I said, okay. So I waited a few minutes. He gave me the coat, and I looked at it, and I'm like, well, it's wet. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. I just steam clean it, and when it'll dry, it'll be fine. So I said, fine. So I pulled the plastic down, and I drove the coat to her. She called me later at work, and I never looked at the belt. It's kind of a rope belt. She was screaming and yelling. The tassels were unraveled, and this side of the coat had dried, and it was all matted and clumped together, you know, like fur was missing.
All right, that's more information than I have to know.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You borrowed the coat.
Yes.
Why did you borrow her coat? Did you like it? You were going out someplace special?
Well, where I was going, I have a coat. It's an expensive name brand coat that I left for her to keep while I borrowed her coat, which was more of an evening coat.
So you borrowed her coat because you liked it?
Yes, ma'am.
You just bought it. See that coat?
Right.
I didn't ruin the coat. The cleaners ruined it.
Listen, go take it up with the cleaners.
Okay.
She doesn't have to have your coat with your DNA on it, right?
Yes.
You have the coat with your DNA on it. Right? Do you have a problem with the cleaners? You go to the cleaners and say, you ruined my coat. Because in actuality, Miss Scott, it is now your coat. Judgment is for the plaintiff in the amount of $178.46. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back, go to your right, please.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I mean, I could have gave it to her the way it was. I tried to have it dry and cleaned. It's not my fault they ruined it. So I just got myself a new coat.
Well, actually, I'm glad she paid for it because it wasn't paid for, really. So she just finished paying it off on a credit card. So she did me a favor.
Don't be touching my coat.
17-year-old Kelly Atkinson says she started dating Daniel Cope when she was only 15. Now broken up, she's suing him for money he took when they were lovers.
Order. All rise. Quiet, please.
Judges number 278 on the calendar in the matter of Atkinson versus Cope. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
How old are you?
25.
Did you know how old she was when you started to date her?
Yes.
How old was she?
15.
And you were 23?
Yes, ma'am.
That's very dumb.
It's a lesson well learned.
Because in addition to everything else, it's a felony. Right?
Yes.
Now, Miss Atkinson, this is your mother?
Mm-hmm.
You're 17 now.
Yes, I am.
So this suit was really filed by you on behalf of your daughter. You say that you loaned him money.
Loaned him $2,000.
For what?
Repairs on his pickup truck. Bills that I paid for him.
Like what?
Gas and power. Very, very, very often, he would take me to the bank to get $20 out so he could get back and forth to work for a night. I have a copy of all my bank receipts for the time that we were dating.
Where did you meet him?
He is an old friend of mine's boyfriend's brother.
Yeah.
And we were just introduced one day, and we were friends for about 5 months, and then it went from there.
Did your mother know that you were dating him?
Yes, she did.
Did you think it was a good idea?
He wasn't like a normal 23-year-old. He was more like a 19-year-old. Seemed, and they were friends first.
That's not unusual. So he's 23 going on 19. And your daughter was 15 going on 16.
Yeah.
So you didn't think it was so terrible.
Yeah.
Did you know that they were intimate?
Not for a long time, no.
So you took some money from her?
The loan was offered to me. What I did borrow from her, yes. Didn't take.
Well, tell me.
It was offered.
Right. And you took it?
It was offered
It
as
was
a loan.
offered several times, and I did take it. Yes, I borrowed, yes.
Why?
Not $2,000.
How much?
$800.
Well, $800 in one lump sum.
Yes, ma'am.
We're talking about little bits at a time.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
All the withdrawals listed on there, there's only, I think, one deposit that I made for my birthday on April 8th. All the rest of the withdrawals were not from me personally using the money, but from him using the money.
You mean using it to go out on a date, maybe?
No, to take it and pay his bills, or to, for instance, I bought him a differential. He needed a differential. I loaned him the $150 as a deposit down on the differential for his...
Does that sound familiar?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I've been self-sufficient since I was 18 years old. I paid all my bills. No. And no, she did not pay no gas, power, or electric bill. She loaned me, which was offered, $800, which I paid back. Now, I don't know where she comes up with this, no.
How much did you have in this account when you started dating
To start
him?
out with, $2,200.
And prior to dating him, had you taken any money out of that account?
No, that account was saved up. I've been saving that money since I was 6 years old to go and buy a car when I was 16 or to go to college.
So what you're telling me is there were no withdrawals made from that account?
None. Zero.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Step up here, please, with your daughter. When did you find out that she was helping him out with money?
The first time I found out about it was his ex-girlfriend left a message on our answering machine telling Kelly that she would never get her $2,000 back, and a few other things she left on. And that was the first time I realized, uh-oh, she's really done it. She's given him some money. And I was afraid she wasn't going to get it back.
And when Mom confronted me, I did lie to her because I was trying to protect him.
When did you break up with him?
When? At the end of August.
Why?
He put his boot through the window of my parents' truck, kicked me in the face with it.
Why?
Lots of fights. We were in the middle of another fight, and it ended up in a domestic dispute.
Did you call the police?
Yes, I did.
In addition to the $2,000 that you say you took out of your account and gave to him, You're suing for $5,000 and the other for medical bills. For what?
During the time that we were together, I contracted a venereal disease, a virus called HPV. There's a letter from my doctor and bills, my medical bills for the last year.
Did you have sexual relations with anyone other than him during this period of time?
No.
What are you laughing about? Why is that a funny question?
No, just like that, no, no.
Well, if you have some information that she had sexual relations with somebody else, I'll hear you, sir.
She had a sexual relationship with a very close friend of mine.
When?
When? During the time that we were dating. Okay. The money that she loaned me, the $800, okay, yes, I did pay back. This was a doorway to open the account, and once the money had started being removed, the $800 that was loaned to me, then she went ahead and removed more money. Okay, whenever I caught up to this, and I confronted her about this, you know, spending money to go here, go there, I said, Kelly, you can't do that. That's not right.
Show me proof that you paid back the $800.
Show me proof that I borrowed $2,000.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When you fool around with jailbait, you sort of accept the consequences of that, sir.
And later today...
You're not a
like
man.
him.
You're a little weasel.
Because
Your whole family.
Just go. Put him away for 20 years. So.
You know what? You're all going to jail.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Atkinson is suing her former boyfriend, Daniel Cope, for money he took when they were dating. She also claims Daniel gave her a sexually transmitted disease and wants him to pay for her medical bills.
Now, you answered one question that I posed to you, sir, with a different answer. I asked you how you knew that she was having sexual relations with somebody else at the same time she was having sexual relations with you. And you are telling me about $800.
How do I know?
Yes.
Because I drove over to my buddy's house. That's where she'd spent the night instead of over at my house like she told her mother.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I caught them.
You caught them what?
I caught them in the house. Half dressed.
Does that sound familiar to you?
No, it does not.
Well, would you tell me what he's talking about if you know?
I have no idea.
Well, tell me about it, sir.
What do you want to know about it?
She was supposed to be spending the night with you?
Yes, Your Honor.
And?
And?
She wasn't there?
She was not there.
So you went looking for her?
I went looking for her, yes.
Well, I'm making this very easy for you.
Well, thank you.
Good. How much are your medical bills?
So far, out of pocket is $895. And I'm going to need many more.
Well, you know, you're partially responsible, madam. So's your mother. In my judgment. You said it. He was 23, going on 19. Probably more like 15. So, he's no genius. Your daughter is 15, going on 16, and clearly she's no genius. You're supposed to be smart enough to put your foot down and say, I don't want you to see this guy because he's too old for you, and I don't think it's appropriate at your age. At age 15, to be dating somebody who's 23 is not appropriate. Maybe when you're 30 and he's 38, it's a different story. But right now, it's not appropriate. That's your job as a mother.
Okay, now whenever Mom did find out about his age and how much we were hanging out together, I was lying to her, again, to try to protect him.
Your mother still says she knew very well that you were dating him and that she gave her tacit approval because she felt that he was immature enough to be almost a contemporary of yours.
And I trusted
Which is
them.
a kind way of saying it.
Very kind.
Very kind. So you bear part of this responsibility. You know. Have you had yourself tested, sir?
I had myself tested, yes.
Good. Do you have the results of the test?
I have what they mail me is a card that says you're okay, fine, that you don't need to call us, you don't need to contact us, that you don't need to come in.
Let me see.
Okay, this does not say nothing, but it's a mailer, all right?
Well, it doesn't say anything. What are you giving it to me for?
That's the only thing that I do have. Okay, if otherwise I'd have been notified, say, you know, I'd have gotten a phone call saying, come in, we need to discuss this.
What made you go here for blood tests, sir?
Because I started a new relationship and I wanted to get tested. I wanted to make sure that, you know, before I have an intimate relationship with anybody, that I do not have a problem.
Well, this is interesting because this was just done in October.
Yes, ma'am, I have a new relationship.
I heard that already. You sound like a broken record. But you stopped seeing her in August, right?
A year ago.
A year ago.
Right.
Right, so this doesn't tell me anything because I don't know whether you were tested a year ago and were treated during the course of that year for anything. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She'd been having sex for long before I come around.
And later today,
You're a lying scumbag. Your whole family is that way. Your dad's constantly bails you out. Your whole family is that way.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Atkinson is suing her former boyfriend, Daniel Cope, claiming he gave her a sexually transmitted disease. Daniel says he knows nothing about it.
Mr. Cope, nobody is blameless in this situation. Unfortunately, you are the legal adult and she is the legal minor. And when you fool around with what we used to call, when I was a child, jailbait, you sort of accept the consequences of that, sir. You took out this money. This was your money supposedly for a car, correct?
For a car or college, whichever I decided that was more important at the time.
And so far you have medical bills in the amount of $895. I'm giving you a judgment in the amount of $2,895. I'm saying the following to you. You started off your life wrong. You're supposed to be smarter.
Mm-hmm.
You're 17 years old. Your mother is supposed to be smarter. Your mother is supposed to be protective. And as far as I'm concerned, this 15-year-old shouldn't have unfettered control over a substantial bank account. It's her money, but she's still a kid.
Right.
Fortunately, what was coming out wasn't money to buy drugs or other things, but it could have been. Mm-hmm. So you gotta be very, very careful and very vigilant as a parent these days. I assume your new girlfriend is over the age of 18.
Yes.
Great. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Back there to your right, please.
And I thought maybe they'd be good for each other. Maybe she'd help him grow up a little bit, and he'd help her grow up a little bit.
And now the next case.
Party's on Lewis versus Lewis. Step forward, please.
Secretary Royce Lewis is suing her 19-year-old stepson, Daniel Lewis, for money she loaned him to buy a stereo when he was 16.
Okay, so that we understand who the cast of characters are in this case, this is your stepson.
Yes.
This is your biological son.
Yes.
Are you still married to his father?
Separated.
Married but separated.
Right.
Well, a couple of years ago, while you were probably all living together, correct?
Yes.
According to this, you made a loan to these two boys.
Yes.
To go out and buy some stereo equipment. At that time, he was 16.
Yes.
And it was your agreement that when he turned 18, he would pay you back.
Yes.
Turned 18?
Yeah.
What happened?
He never paid me back. The agreement was that when he turned 18, and I didn't ask for interest or anything, and before I gave them both the money, which was cash, I said, this is with the understanding that when you each turn 18 and get your money from your trust account, that you will pay me back the money that I've loaned you. And they both said yes. I said, then go get stereos for your car.
So you got a stereo for your car.
Yes, I did.
And you got one for your car.
Correct.
When did you separate from his father?
About 2.5, maybe 3 months ago.
And it was after that that you filed this lawsuit?
Right. I told him I was going to the time we were together, and he said I couldn't because he's a pastor of a church and it's his son, and I wasn't allowed to. I said he owes me the money and he's not paying it, and you're not doing anything to get it.
Well, but the marriage was already on.
Right.
Going.
No, actually, no, it wasn't.
Well,
but
then I'm going to tell you something. If you threaten to sue your husband's son, that's a good time for marriage to start to go south.
Well, I didn't threaten immediately. I said, somehow something has to happen here. It's not right that he's getting away with all this.
Okay.
Okay. Our agreement, basically there was no agreement. She came up to, I did not ask for the money. I did not ask for anything from her. Me and James were both outside one day. She came right in front of our door. She walked down the stairs and was asking us if we had car stereos and how they worked and all this stuff. And she says, well, do you guys want to go down and get new CD players? And of course, I'm 16 years old. You know, I would love to have a new CD player for my car. So she gave us a blank check, said she told us how much we could spend. Me and James went down, got the same exact CD player. I came home, installed it in my car. Later that night, sitting in my room, she walked through the door and then told me that when I was 18, I could pay her back because I was getting my settlement, okay?
So what did you say to her at that point?
Actually, I never said anything. I never actually said, okay, yes, I will do this, yes, I won't. But the thing is also, even if I had agreed to that, I moved up to Sacramento shortly before I turned 18. When I turned 18, I never heard nothing. To this very day, she has never verbally asked me for that money.
That is a total lie. His dad has talked to him.
Not since.
Not talking about his dad. He said it's you.
My dad left her 2 months ago, and that is when this is happening. And she's suing 4 of my dad's friends.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Have fun in jail because that's where you're going.
Miss Lewis, a minor cannot make a contract. When he was 16 years old, he could not have entered into a contract, either oral or written, with you for anything. And there are times when, if you enter into an agreement when you're a minor, and if you ratify it later when you turn 18 or 21, depending upon the jurisdiction, then it can become enforceable. But he did not do that. He did not ratify it when he became 18. You cannot make a contract with a minor who is 16 and expect it to be enforced in a court. This lawsuit is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. That's back.
You got my case next, buddy.
Yeah, I've already reported you to Wells Fargo.
I really don't care.
Right.
I really don't care.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
You wouldn't have even had that money if it wasn't for me.
I said
you will
because
pay.
your son can't drive and got in a car accident.
Shut up, you.
Why can't you be a man and pay the money
You
back?
lied to your dad.
Because you can't hold the job.
Yes, you lied to your dad. You said you didn't get the money out of the trust account. I called
Okay,
the bank.
no,
You got it.
yeah,
Then
I
you
did
lied
get it.
and said-
The only thing was
then
I
you
got
lied
it 3 months after I turned 18 because I couldn't. But what
because
does that
you were
matter?
too stupid to figure out how
What
to
does
get
that
it on your
matter?
own.
I know you can't do contracts with minors. I'm not stupid.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người, chào mừng mọi người đã quay trở lại channel của mình. Hôm nay mình sẽ hướng dẫn mọi người cách làm một chiếc giỏ xách có dán hình con ma nhé. Ở đây mình sẽ sử dụng tờ giấy màu trắng và cam. Tiếp theo dụng cụ gồm có thước, bút chì, kéo, hộp keo, bút màu. Giờ chúng ta sẽ bắt tay vào làm nhé. Đầu tiên thì mình sẽ kẻ kích thước của chiếc giỏ xách. Mình sẽ kẻ kích thước là 8 x 8. Sau đó thì mình sẽ vẽ hình con ma lên trên tờ giấy màu trắng này nhé. Như vậy là chiếc giỏ sách của mình đã hoàn thành xong. Nếu như mọi người cảm thấy video này hay và có ích, hãy để lại cho mình một like, share và đăng ký kênh nhé. Hẹn gặp lại mọi người ở những video tiếp theo.